All right, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Talk of the Town. I'm David Camden, and I'm joined alongside internet comedian Matt Scraper.
Howdy, how's it going?
Howdy.
That's my awkward.
Let's just jump right into it. What made you start making funny videos?
Man, I just kind of went and started. I've always been into filmmaking, and whenever I actually first started, whenever I was younger, I've always been into filmmaking, like since I was a little kid, and I wanted to do filmmaking, and if I didn't make it as a filmmaker, I wanted to be a comedian. But the films that I wanted to make were horror films. I only want to do horror films. Yeah, I'm all about horror. I'm my biggest. I'm
the exact opposite. You might have heard me and Jumbo talking about that.
Yeah.
Scary movies? No. I'd have to watch it in the middle of the day, like with the lights on, the windows, bright sunny birds chirping, and then if I watch it at night, I gotta watch like an hour of comedy afterwards.
That's funny.
As soon as I go to sleep,
I'm nightmares.
I'm in there. Yeah.
But that was always my thing. I was like, I love it. The whole slasher films, like that old. I was born in '87, so I was, I'm all about that kind of stuff, and that's what I grew up on, and I wanted to do that, and that's what I started out with. And it's actually kind of funny because when I was a kid, me and my brother, my family got a video camera, but it was like from a yard sale, and it didn't work. It didn't.
I'm gonna try the water.
There you go, the good stuff. I'll try to find it. Yeah. But we had a video camera that it didn't have. You couldn't put a tape in it. You actually had to hook it up to a VCR and record in the VCR, and we'd hook it up, and it had the yellow, red, and white cords that everybody has. Their drawer. And we'd hook it up and hit record, and I'd prop it up in my window, and then me and I'd film and just hit record, and it'd play on the TV, and I'd go like that, and we'd go out there, and me and my brother would go out there, and we used to I wasn't really good at writing when I was younger about that stuff, so I basically tried to mimic scenes in movies. And like when Jeepers Creepers came out, there was that scene, I don't know if you've watched it, but that scene where the head falls on the car, and
definitely.
We had this old Toyota car that was outside, and my brother would throw a basketball and it would hit, and I would act out the scene as if that was the head, and my mom caught us out there, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Freaking out.
So you were making little skits when you were a kid.
Yeah, trying to, but I could never write, and I didn't know how, I didn't know how, really, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to act out the skits to see if I could do it. And when I got in trouble and I got grounded, my mom took the camera away and we got in all that trouble. And she was like, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Acting like balls or heads,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
You okay?
Yeah, exactly. She was like, thinking, something was wrong with me. So then we started, and then I started, from there, I was like, man, I want to try to figure out how to write stuff, but I didn't know how to do it. I was young, I didn't know what I was doing. And then a little bit after that, we had our landlords whose, their daughter was moving, and they were like, we need somebody to help us move. We need to help them move. So my mom was like, I got two boys. Well, they'll help. So we helped, and she was like, she don't want any of this stuff in her house. You guys can take whatever you want. Well, my mom's like,
find some treasure.
Well, see, and that's the funny thing about it. Because my mom's like, you ain't taking a bunch of junk, you bald head boy, acting like something's wrong with you, So she had this little sunroom that she had a bunch of books. And so my mom's like, you're not taking these, because I was like, I want some of these books, I want to read. Maybe it might help me out. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. So my mom's, and there was something about this one book that stood out. Didn't have a cover.
So your mom didn't want you to read.
Well, I don't think she knew. I don't think she knew. She thought I didn't know how to read. There goes the board.
Hey, well, let's go ahead and. There's Matt's skateboard.
Introduced it.
Introduced the plug board. And before everybody thinks I just give a board to everybody on the show, Matt has actually bought every graphic we've made. Yeah. A big support.
Cash money. I try to support the school what you guys are doing, so I'm all about trying to,
Yeah, well, now you guys know there wasn't a ghost in here.
It was my lanky, my feet knocking over.
So, did you get to take the books?
Well, so I found one book that stood out to me. There was a one that didn't have a cover, and it stood out to me. So I grabbed it and I put it in my pocket. I left later on, and I felt like, you would think that I had like a pornography. That's how much I don't watch that stuff. And so I had this, so I was like hiding, I was like, I'm not going to, and I think it's just because she just didn't want junk, she was all about like, we're just going to have a bunch of junk. You're not going to read it. I know you, So I took it and I read it, and it turned out it was a book that was like a horror style. And what it was like a family who got in a car and took off on a road trip, took a wrong turn on a road, classic, horror style, and there was a scarecrow. They break down the scarecrow. They noticed that there was a scarecrow there, so they thought there was a house. And so they went back. When they went back, the scarecrow was gone. And then that's the rest. That was all that was there with the book. Like, the rest of it was missing.
So you decided to fill in the blanks.
So exactly.
Ad-libbed it.
Yeah. So I was like, what happened? And so I looked it up. I couldn't find the book. And this was back in the day when there was no Google.
You needed closure.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what happened to these people? So I just basically wrote it myself. I just came up with the rest of it myself. And so I was just like, and I liked how it went. So then I started from there, like basically watching a beginning of a horror movie and then stopping it, finishing it my style, and then finishing out and see how close it was, how different it was, how much better mine was than that. So I started doing that, and and I still do it to this day sometimes, but sometimes it's
so
like
you make like an alternate ending. To
exactly,
these
yeah.
movies.
And so I started doing that, and then that's whenever I started picking up how to write and how to like really come up with fit it with the
story
flow.
Together.
Exactly. So I started doing that, and I was just all about it, and then. Fast forward to being, older, I actually started getting gigs with like filmmakers around Tulsa and different things, like these independent filmmakers, and they saw what I could do, and I was doing it, but I didn't have any equipment, I didn't have anything, I didn't have, I didn't have that camera anymore, so I didn't like have anything, so I started.
So you didn't bring your VCR and your AV wires.
Yeah, hey guys, let me hook it up real quick, and can you guys stand closer? The cords are too short.
I can't hear you.
Exactly. And so I just, and I had to like basically, because I was broke, I didn't have any money, and using what I had, but then I was like, so I had to like learn from these people who had all their equipment, working with some of these people, and these guys who had the money, had the talent, had the capabilities. I don't want to be that guy to say like, I just felt like they just, what I brought to the table was not, I don't want to say better, but it wasn't as good. It was, I don't know, some of their stuff didn't make sense, but mine.
So you had more passion behind what you were doing, but they had the money for the equipment.
Exactly, yeah. So it started out with that, and then after a while, there were some people that just didn't want to work with me because they were like, oh, you think, because I was coming up with like ideas real quick.
So they were threatened by it.
That's how I felt, yeah.
I feel that way a lot too, and I shared that with John Boy, like a lot of skateboarders and stuff, whenever we were coming out with, Cody and I were coming out with Plug Skateboards.
Exactly, yeah.
It was almost like people started to push us down because of jealousy.
Exactly, and that's how I felt. And
it ended. People are now support us like crazy.
Exactly.
But in the beginning, it was kind of weird,
And that's what, and I thought, like, to me, I was like, I always thought it was all about what, it was all about the filmmaking and the passion, and I thought everybody had that, but here I didn't really have a lot of room to talk because I didn't have a production crew, like all the other guys. I didn't have that schooling because I didn't go to school for it. I was self-taught, and I didn't have the money to get anything, so I had to kind of take what I could get, so I had to bite my tongue a lot. And then I met this guy, who was like, a really odd guy, but he was kind of more like, oh, come with here, and he was like, I need you to help me with this, help me with that. But then when I came up with an idea, he changed it up a little bit. But the one thing he couldn't do is he wasn't that funny. And he always wanted me to be the comic relief in his stuff.
Okay.
So that's what kind of got me to be like, I would write, like in the horror movies, when it's cheesy, there was always like a cheesy joke. I'm all about the, you know me, I'm all about the cheesy joke.
The cheese.
Yeah,
sure.
And so I would do that, and he was like, oh, I'll give you credit. And kind of like what John Boy was talking about too, with it taking like years. It was taking all this time to put these films out, and then, a year and a half later, this film would come out, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I helped with this, and I helped with that, and I made like a little cameo. I wasn't in it. No, my name wasn't on it.
Yeah,
there was no.
Like, sure you did.
And I was like, what are you doing? So and then I just got tired of it. And then fast forward, after taking a break after having a kid and everything, doing all that stuff, I was just I just started. I kind of got a hold of some stuff and was just like, man, I just kind of go from there. It's like, what better way to do it than do it myself and try to put it out there? And somehow I went from horror, to do all that stuff to doing comedy.
But it all works out, right? So your comic relief came back around.
Exactly, yeah. And I just tried to do that, and then people started liking it, and I was just like kind of shocked because I was like, no, I'm scary. I want to be.
See, I kind of went through the same thing with the camera. Mm-hmm. My mom got a camera whenever I was younger, and me and Max Talbert, Ronnie Blood, Roger Clow, I want to say Blake McClure was around at that time. We were living at Southern Hills. Well, right by Southern Hills, there's like a place where I don't know what they do. They fix roads or something.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of traffic cones and a huge sandhill, like 2-story tall sandhill.
Yeah.
And we would jump over the fence and go wrestle on this sandhill. And we'd set up the camera and we'd like do backflips down it and stuff, and we'd take like a baking sheet because it'd make a bang, like a really good bang, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And dude, we were all about that camera, and then we'd go, and the same thing you were saying, like you'd have to hook in the AV wires and hook it into the VCR to play it through.
Yeah, see, that's the thing I had. I got a hold of a like a little handy cam style camera, and I went around and I would make these little films, and I would be made by myself most of the time, so I had to teach myself how to, because I didn't have any editing equipment, had no way of doing stuff, so I had to figure out a way, and it sucked because when I first did it, it, I was able to hit record and then pause it and then change the scene and then, you know, do different things. And so
like Robot Chicken.
Exactly, and I did different things. And then one of the, like a couple of the ones that they're early ones I posted a while back, and some of them you can find on YouTube. People have come across some like old ones whenever I used to do that stuff. There was ones where like I would change my shirt and I would change my hair. And so then I would have to go back and forth to that character, and I would have to change my shirt real quick, hit record, change it back to it, and everything go like that.
So you've been a one-man show the whole
yeah,
time.
for a long time. And I would do that, and I would take the camera to a different friend's house, and I would hook it up to their TV, and then we'd have different people who started liking it. And then instead of like how nowadays where people could share this stuff, they'd be like, hey man, Matt's gonna bring his camera over, and we're gonna watch some of his videos. And they're like, okay, and they'd sit around, and then I'd hook it up, and I'd be nervous to watch it. But what was cool about that is I got to see the reactions. It was different than like seeing somebody who put a happy face or a heart or something on Facebook. I got to watch them. I'm like, and then
the real, in the raw,
exactly, yeah, and I'd get laughs, and then sometimes people would be like, and I'm like, oh,
but you need that critique.
Exactly,
I mean, whenever I was going to NSU, we had these hardcore critiques, and they did not hold back any words. They didn't mix words. I mean, they told you how it was, and at first you'd be pissed off, but then you'd go home after you get done pouting and go, you know what? They're right.
I was able to take notes, because I'm a people pleaser. I'm all about making everybody happy, and that's all I want to do.
Well, that's why you make the videos. You want people to laugh,
exactly,
right?
yeah. And then when people say that kind of stuff, or they say the negative things at first, when you first hit it, or they, you bomb or like something's dumb, and they're like, and like there was a couple of them. I mean, and at first everybody's like, "Oh man, I love that. That's so good," and they're like, "You did that." And I think what was funnier about it was that you could tell it was like no production, no editing, and it was like me going back and forth, and I didn't know if it was the quality of the videos or if it was the the whole like
it was
the
all
jokes.
Of it.
And it was more of it like that before I started doing that, and it cracked me up because I'd sit there and I'd be like watching it, I'm like, here comes a good joke, and then I turn around and like no one's laughing. I'm like,
oh crap,
and I'm like,
was that a good joke?
And then I have another, like, you got any more? I'm like, nah man, no, and I was trying to.
And that's another thing, like. Everybody that's going to see this is going to see it on YouTube. And the internet wasn't a thing whenever I was a kid. I remember I went to Cherokee Elementary, and there was one-armed Chester. Did you ever go there? He was the computer teacher. He had one arm, and he'd put in a floppy disk, and we'd play Oregon's Trail.
I did in 8th grade.
And it was just like, that was computers. And it was like, okay, this is boring. And then eventually, my mom had a computer. Somebody just gave it to her, and we had dial-up internet. So, it'd be like, hey, get off the phone. I'm gonna get on the internet, and you'd have to wait and then
that's what's funny is whenever you say that, you say dial up, you hear that noise automatically in your head. You're like, it starts shivering.
I had to sign into AOL,
that's
and back then I had a Zynga.
Oh yes,
Zynga before MySpace, before Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually remember Max Talbert was the first one that told me about YouTube.
Really?
He goes, David, you got to check out YouTube. There's every skate video you could ever find on there. And so I was like, okay. So I got on the computer. And I put in just a U and then tube, and it was not the site I was supposed to find. It was bad. It was a bad site.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what's hilarious about, like, whenever you're at that age and you start, coming into the whole internet and the, ease to get into it, and it starts, because, because we're close to the same age. I'm 31. You're 30.
I'm 29.
20. So, so it's about close to the same. And about that time frame, it's either, you got addicted to, like, seeing, all these social media, stuff with, like, YouTube or porn. That's all it was. And, you start going on to it, and you're like, like you'd be at the library, sometimes.
Yeah, I used to have LimeWire and Kazaa or whatever it was.
We had a lot of computers with that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I downloaded the Globe Opinion skateboarding video. It took a full week. What I would do is every night, once everybody went to sleep, I would hook up the computer and start the download. And I'd let it download from midnight till 6 in the morning when I got up for school.
2 weeks later.
And then I'd pause the download, unhook the internet so that my mom could use the phone. You know what I mean? And then after a week, we'd all gather around the computer and watch the most pixelated video you've ever seen.
That's the thing about it,
And we were hyped. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing about it. It's like, at that time, it's like, you wouldn't even imagine, like, what, kids are capable of getting at themselves. And it's like, the thing about it, it's like, people like, why did you start so late? Why didn't you start when YouTube first started? And that's the thing about it.
It wasn't a thing.
Yeah, and you don't have it. It means it's like, I see some of these videos, like, I'm on, like, I started just now started venturing off to other social medias, and that are capable of doing these videos, and at a snap of a finger, like I could literally make a video in like 2 minutes and have it posted and then have people reacting to it. That's how quick it is. Before, it's different.
The same thing happened with me the other day. Kelsey's mom owns Urban Station in Fort Gibson. And I was just waiting on, they were eating and Kelsey was finishing her closing duties. So I just kind of took my phone and filmed some of the store and filmed like all their gift shop and filmed some of their candy and then like filmed the restaurant because I was just playing with it. I was having fun. I used Splice, free app on the phone.
Best app.
It's got like stock music and I just picked, a festive stock song.
Definitely.
And I shared it and her mom shared it as well on their page. And it got like 3.5 thousand views.
Jeez, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it can happen so quick.
With no money on it, anything like that. And she had paid somebody like a couple weeks before, and it got about the same reaction with this professional camera, professional filmer, and they put a little bit of money to boost the post. Yeah. And it did better than mine, but not by much. And it's crazy what you can do with a cell phone.
Definitely, yeah.
And there's an app for everything. There's an app for After Effects now. There's an app for literally all of it.
And that's so crazy because whenever after I took a break, after having my daughter and everything, and I took a break from all that stuff because I'm still in the writing process, but I took some time off, and then after a little while, and I started seeing like what some of the stuff was doing, and then I remember I YouTubed it, and somebody was just like, there's this movie that was out that was made with the iPhone, and I was like, oh man, and I was like, what do you mean? They're like, there's this movie that's made with the iPhone. I was like, an iPhone? Like you're talking about? And they're like, yeah. And so like I watched it, and it was amazing, the stuff on it. And then so when I looked into it, and because I'm all about like the bonus features and all that stuff, and so I was like digging deep into the in the interweb, to find out about this movie, and it was made with the iPhone 4. And and I'm thinking, and so when you look at an iPhone 4 nowadays, you're kind of like, well, this is junk,
Yeah, exactly.
But at that time frame, people were making full length movies with it, and it was amazing. I can't if I can remember what it was called, but it was so good. Like it was shocked, and I was shocked because I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, and I tend to relate a lot of things back to skateboarding, but it's what I know. And the same thing happened in the skateboard world because for a while there, if you filmed with your phone, they just didn't count it as good. And it was like, I didn't understand that because I would get amazing clips. I'd go out and film with people and they'd be like, oh, well, you didn't film this on a Canon or you didn't film this on a Nikon. So we're not going to use it. And I'm like, I don't get that. And now the phone has gotten so good that they're kind of just not caring as much. But that's something Cody and I, when we made Plug Skateboards, we don't care. You know what I mean? Go film with your phone. If I can see the video, you did it.
That's
you know
all
what
that matters.
I mean?
And there's stuff that like I've even like nowadays that because I have a nice fast forward to in present day, I have a nice camera. I have all the stuff, all the things that it takes to make good quality things. And then so then I'll get with some people, and then some of my B-roll camera that I have. Sometimes whenever I don't want to get it, pull it out, or like depending upon where we're at, what's going on, I'll have my main camera, and then I'll just sometimes use my phone. And then there's a couple of guys that use similar camera, but a little bit lower, as far as price and different things go. Not to be like, oh, I got a nicer camera, but they just, that's just what they use.
More of an entry level.
Exactly. And they actually, and I'm like, they show me some of the videos that they've done. I'm like, oh man, they've done like really good with that. They're like, oh, I use my phone for that. I'm like, oh, because I'm thinking that's that camera. Like, oh, I don't even use my camera.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I spent enough on it. I need to use my camera.
That's kind of how I was. Kelsey got me that little Canon T5 that was in the last video.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to use it more. But the iPhone is so accessible all the time. I mean, I can take a picture right to Facebook, right to Instagram, add a filter. Yeah. Boom, 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 done.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the other thing is John Boy and I were talking about. A lot of people are just addicted to the affirmation of the notifications popping up. So it's so accessible. I mean, if you go film with your camera or whatever, then you've got to upload it to the computer. Yeah. Then you've got to edit it out either in an app on your computer or like Premiere or Final Cut or something like this. And then you got to upload it to YouTube. And then you can share it to your Facebook. Yeah. And then you can finally get your affirmation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people try to do is cut out that time because, like, to me, back whenever I used to, because I would take pride because I would see some of these guys and they're like, oh, we just do this or this is what we do and we do these things, and I'm like learning it. I'm just kind of like confused and I'm just like, well, how do you do it? Well, what you taking away this or you don't edit, you don't do this. And I'm like, no, you can do this, do this. I'm like, and then to me at the time I was taking pride in that because I was like, I did all this and I did all these things and I taught myself all these little things, but then I saw these people. I'm like, they're not taking that time, which. Not to discredit them, it's just at that time. I mean, I'm still learning, even to this day.
Everybody is.
And I was just like, but they didn't this and they didn't do that, and it cut out that time, and they're all about it. They're like, oh well, you did, you could do this and you could do that, and this is this, and it gives you more time to do this. I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep doing it my way and do this. But then I start realizing. my post times were different. You know, I was taking longer to do this. I was taking all that time. Something would go wrong and I wasn't able to fix this. And I went from, you know, not having it pause, record to Windows Movie Maker that I had no idea how to use it. It was just the cheapest way. Basically, I just uploaded the video on there and did fade away on different shots. Yeah. Learned from that, jumped to Sony Vegas Pro and had no idea what I was doing. John Boy hooked me up with After Effects and all that stuff and showed me how to do layers, which
probably that he got from NSU from the net lab.
yeah, definitely. That's where we were. Yeah. While he was sleeping down there, I'd pull like, you go back to sleep.
Yeah,
I was
you go to sleep. Let me get those programs.
I'll watch it. Because he was always doing that whenever because we actually made videos together, and at that time frame, you know, when he was still doing that, and anytime he'd be like, hey, let's meet at the net lab, let's meet up, you know, and he'd always be there, and he'd just working all the time.
He's a working monster
all the time, and that's one thing. It's like to see where he's at now. It's just like it's almost like where you want to say I knew it, because you can see different friends who are not motivated, and then you see the ones who are nonstop, and you're like, man, you're gonna wear yourself out.
There's no way you can fail eventually, you know.
Man, just nonstop, always. And that's one thing about him too. Is like he would sit there and, you know, not to sit there and be like, oh, John Boy this, John Boy that. But one thing that I have a lot of respect for him is if he didn't know it, he would figure it out right there. And it would be something like he would talk about a scene, and then so we'd sit there and be like, oh, we have this idea for this video, and he'd be like, what if we did this? And the next thing you know, you're like, oh yeah, but John Boy, you know, and he'd be up there at the top, you know, trying to shoot this shot, and he'd be like, yeah, if I do this and do that, you know, and if I go here, I'm like, what are you doing? And he's just like figuring out the shots, and then he'd be like, hey, I was watching this movie and there's this shot here, I want to do that shot, and he'd sit there and make it happen until, I mean, it started getting dark outside, and he'd just start, you know, and he'd figure out, and then he'd finally do it, and then he'd get it, and he'd get to a perfect shot, and you're like, what the heck, man? Like, here I am.
That looks great, yeah.
And he just figured it out right there. And it's, like, cool to watch something like that because of that determination in somebody. And it's like, man, I want to learn from that, you know,
yeah,
that type
exactly.
thing.
And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to interview him. And he's filming us a promo video tomorrow.
Oh, that's sick.
We're going to Jinx tomorrow for the Skate Local competition.
Yeah.
And then he's going to come and he's going to film and edit out a super cool video.
That's so amazing.
And I can film and I can edit. But sometimes you just need to let somebody else put their artistic touch on something.
He's got so much in him that he can easily put it out there, and that's one thing. You know, I've been a fan and had a lot of respect for him for the longest time because he taught me a lot of stuff. Because I mean, maybe we might have had some creative differences in the sense of like different things that we would do, but he would always, when it came to certain things, he would always find something, and so I try to pick up from that because you want to surround, because it's kind of like what you guys were talking about. You want to surround yourself with the people who are like motivated and different things like that, and that's one of the things. Like that's why I always like working with him because not only was he motivated, and you know, I learned a lot from him, but he loved every idea. You know, he was all about it. And I'd probably say the stupidest thing. I'd be like, oh, we should film each other, you know, knocking us water. And he's like, yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. I'll film it from 12 angles.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, let's do it. And then we'd sit there and like, it should be one simple shot, you know, like that. And he'd be like, bah, bah. And then he would put like, you know, explosions and stuff. You know, like he's like the local Michael Bay, you know, and all the crazy stuff.
Exactly.
But he could do it, and he made it look good, you know. And I was just like, and that's where the difference is in different things that, you know, I started trying to pick up. And I was just like, man, if, you know, people are like that are doing, and the thing too is like, I didn't really have the time because I've always been working, always been doing stuff like that. And that's also the thing too is I always made excuses on why I couldn't do it,
right.
And I would be like,
so you had to get over that.
Exactly, and that was one of the things I had to learn. Is I was like, well, I'm too tired to do this, or I don't have time to do this, or I have to go do all these other things. I don't have time, and it's just like, why not make that time? You know?
Right, and that's kind of the thing with me is I hear a lot of people with their excuses, and I have most of them, and I just choose not to accept that. Like, didn't have a dad, didn't have the finances, you know. Or, you know, whatever it is, like, have to work to have a car, have to do this and that. And, like, I mean, you can, if you care enough, you will make the time. You know what I mean? And sometimes it takes us longer. Like, it's taken me a long time. I wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to get it all back. And it sucks that is the way it has to be.
That's the thing about it. It's like when you hit this point, because, you know, you always hear that, you know, wish you would have known what you know now when you were younger, you know, because you could, you know, take that. And then I'm not just talking about with things like with filmmaking or with stuff like that, or you're skateboarding or filming
with
or, you
live.
Know, with live, exactly, because there's so many things that, you know, you just you have it figured out. No matter who you are, no matter what you're told, what you tell anybody, that is like you always think you have it something figured out, you know. And I was just like, I thought because I was making plans, because I was doing this, and then like something turns around and it's that test, it's that, you know, to see where you're at with it, you know, however you take it, you know, that. I mean, it's your test. It's, you know, see what you're able to do with it.
Definitely. I heard somebody say yesterday, you don't get a testimony without a test.
Oh, yeah.
And that's pretty crazy to think about it, because I never really thought about that word in there.
Yeah.
But those kind of trials really do make you better.
Oh, yeah.
When I used to work at Chili's, I worked there for 6 years waiting tables. The way that I would learn something was every time I messed it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know
that's the best way.
You get heated and you have 6 orders backed up and you need this ticket split and all this stuff. You will never mess it up again. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't ever want to feel this way again.
And that's the best way to find out if you put what you learned into what you're doing, because if you're constantly, if you keep messing up, and you're not motivated to try to change it, to try to fix it, you're going to keep messing up, and it's going to show, and people are going to pick that up, and you're going to be that person that people are not going to want to be around, or if they do, it's not going to be a positive atmosphere.
Definitely.
It's going to be, like that. People are going to, you're going to learn from it and be like, oh, well, and that's what I try. I always, since I've been younger, I've always tied everything back into my videos or like an idea for something, because I'd sit there and think, oh, this kind of joke and this kind of stuff, that would be hilarious if I did this. And I try it and it flop. I'm like, nope, wrong.
But
and
at least you learned and moved forward.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right?
That's the best way to try to do.
Let's see what we got on this list. I've got a one-man show. You, for a little while there, you kind of had a little film crew, didn't you? You guys made a couple things, and then you went back to, I want to do this by myself, or schedules, or what was it?
It was more trying to get enough people to have the same kind of motivation. Whenever I was in high school, I had a group of 5 guys. I started a group called Mugabum Films. Mugabum Films, and I was all about it. And we'd always say, Mugabum. And the idea was amazing. We told a lot of people. We did a few videos here and there, and that was still that time frame.
Mugabum.
Yeah, Mugabum. Yeah, we'd always walk around. We were all about it. And I don't know how I came up with that.
Did you ever actually mug a bum?
No, see, and that's what I was thinking about, I think when I got it, it was stupid, but when I was sitting there one day, because I was like, oh, I want to start this film group, a group of guys, we can make these comedy videos, these different things, different guys do different stuff, we can do it. I was like, but I wish I knew what to, call it. And I was reading somewhere, I think it was in the paper or something like that, some guy, it was a homeless guy, was talking about, he's like, oh yeah, I was like, he's like, some guy mugged me. And I was like, who on earth would mug a bum?
What are they going to get from
exactly.
him?
I was like, who would mug a bum? And I was sitting there like, mug a bum, and then
it just clicked.
Yeah,
mug a bum.
And then I was talking to my buddy who was also one of the ones who, who was in that, and I was telling him about it, and I was just like, dude, he's like, yeah, we should do this, because at the time I was into music, and I was, starting to do my band, and trying to be hardcore and screaming in a mic and everything. But
you were in a band?
Yeah, I did that.
So not only your brother, but you.
Yeah, did Colton Keys and all of us. We were in Murder, She Wrote. Or do you remember that? When Jason Kaufeld was a drummer. We played a few shows and did some stuff whenever he was in Fate Lives a Failure. We did some different things. Not too many, but we did a lot of stuff. We jammed in. I think more than anything, we went to Colton's house to practice, and it was hot in the thing in the garage where we practiced, and that shed thing. So we got to swim in his pool. So I think that more than anything,
you're like, ooh, if I go play this, I get to swim in this.
Yeah, we were always pool. We'd always because it would get hot in there, and I was the screamer. I was like, doing all that stuff, and then we jump in the pool every time, and it was more like they were like, okay, we practiced, okay, let's hop in the pool.
Does your brother still play?
Yeah, he's still doing acoustic stuff. He's doing that a lot. Yeah. Oh man, he's one of the ones too that not meant to make it about everybody else, but he's just with his music. He just pick up that guitar, and what's cool about him. And I even said it the other night when I was talking to one of my friends and telling him about it. I was like, that kid can pick up any instrument and play it, and he's amazing. Anything he picks up, I was like, he's so good. He can play a banana, and he was like, that'd be kind of cute. And I was like, he could turn. There's a banana nearby. I was like, he could make music from this.
He can also cook a steak.
Oh, can he? See,
he is a great cook.
Really?
I've seen him at a lot of different restaurants, and he's good. I guess he's just got that mind that can just put things together and see the end.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just because he's always, there's sometimes when he's all talking about a bunch of stuff, but when he's, quiet into it, he does his things. He's got it figured out. He's just doing his thing, and you talk to him, he's like,
don't bother me. I'm in this right
exactly.
now.
And then he come out and be like, boom. It's it's funny because it's he can do it, and that's what I always thought was cool. And it was the craziest thing is during that time frame when I was doing the music, everybody's like, how come you guys don't play together? How come you guys never play together? And I was like, there was differences in creative and in that sibling rivalry, type thing going on, but. All my passion, everything, because I was like, when we make a song, we'd write a song with me and Murder She Wrote. We would I was always like, let's do a video for it, let's do a music video, let's do all the videos. And me and Colton Keys would come up with an idea, but then it was kind of more like. At that time, it was all about, the girls like us, they want to get into the band.
That's another thing that John Boy and I went over. Back then, it was we were so focused on that, and it just wasted so much time.
Exactly.
And we try to tell the young people, don't do that.
Don't be that mean.
You feel so your relationship really matters, and I'm not trying to say that the relationships don't matter and that you don't learn a lot from it, But you hardly see people who are 16 years old that are in love that are still like married and together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you grow and you change.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff that, you know, and that's the thing you got to figure out. It's like how long it's going to like really last, and how to make it, and how to, you know, make or break, you know, and people separate, and then you decide, oh, do I go back to it? Do I stay away from it? Do I, you know, what do I do with it?
Right.
You know, and it's like, you know, people will, I mean, that kind of determines who you are, but if you waste so much time on that stuff, and it's going to be hard to tell, because I see some of these youngsters who's ask me for advice all the time, and I tell them, it's like, waste no time. Don't waste any time.
I've seen people even not go to a college or not move off for a full ride because their significant other isn't on the same level as them, and it sucks. But sometimes you've got to just do what's best for you. You know what
definitely.
I mean?
And that's what people's like. You know, they're, and I get that, having that mentality. You know, because I've been there. You know, I mean, we've all been there. You know, to where you get that mentality. But like, what I think is the difference, I never had it. I mean, because that's what I was gonna say too. Is like, you know, the whole not knowing our dad thing. It's like, I wonder if we should keep a tally of how many guests you have who don't know their dad.
Yeah, it'll probably be at least 90%.
Yeah, and that's so sad, because I was like, is that a thing around here? But you know, it's like you don't have those people like really telling you. You know, it's like, don't get hung up on this. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't focus on this. And it's like now it's like the different with the generation. And I don't know if it's because, you know, I don't understand what separates people from being able to tell, you know, like what makes it different. Like, why weren't there a lot of people telling us these things? Like, who wasn't there? So now I feel like, you know, and maybe it's just the influences, or seeing how the generation is different because of the social media, because of all those
most
things.
of my like key people are female. You know what I mean? Like my mom, Marilyn Baker, Calvin Riggs' mom.
Oh yeah.
Jill Weeks. And if I'm not thinking of all of them right off the top of my head, but those were all my heroes, and they were always female, and so I hold them to a higher standard. But as a guy, you're always looking for that male affirmation. You know, you want some advice, you want a clique of people or something. So for me, the problem with that is I got most of that from my older friends who weren't always actually giving me good advice, but they were giving me the only advice they had. You know
exactly. I mean? Because and I just think it's weird how like then, because like I talked to some of them, it's like I didn't have that, you know, and it's just like maybe because we learned from people who didn't have that, we're like, well, I feel like it's my duty to help with that,
to push it forward,
to do that kind of stuff, definitely. to try to you know, like a skateboard, just push it forward, you know, like just learn it, you know, and like try to do that kind of stuff. And people, you know, people all the time are like, oh, well, I did this and I thought this and I had it figured out. I mean, even to this day, like I get, and that's one of the things, like I always wanted to help people, you know, but I didn't have the degree to be like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, be that guy to help everybody and be like a counselor. But I get friends and people that, you know, kind of halfway know me. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of my posts that I put, you know, it's always cool, because I'm not complaining about that necessarily, and I don't make it personal, you know, I do it for entertaining. But when I say that kind of stuff, you know, it shows people that they can see that, and then they can know that somebody else is going through that kind of stuff, and then we can communicate.
They don't feel alone.
Definitely, because I get people all the time that ask me pointers, and they ask me, and then if it doesn't even have to do with filmmaking, they hear about something, you know, that's happened or something that's going on, or even like the whole like bullying, you know, in grade school. Dude, I was bullied all my life, you know, the whole entire time.
Even being as tall as you were,
exactly. I was a stick, man. I was a little guy, you know. I was always the, you know, the peacemaker. I didn't want to fight anybody, and I was, you know, getting bullied, and that's one of my big things that I'm so against, and that's one of the things that I would like to take my platform, you know, try to utilize that for different things like that, because I'm all about that, you know, not bullying, but
so
you know,
basically it doesn't matter the package, you can still get bullied.
Seriously, definitely, yeah.
And I always felt like I was bullied because I was an easy target because how small I was.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, oh, okay, I can take him. You know what I mean?
I was just a tall, lanky guy who I wasn't into the sports. I wasn't into the stuff. You know, I messed around with basketball, but I wasn't in that stuff. And where I went to school, I wasn't. It was a small town school. You know,
Tahlequah
at Marietta.
Marietta, is that where you went?
Yeah, and
Stillwell?
And you had to know somebody. Or be related to somebody to be like a starter on the team, you know, do different things like that.
Are you from Stillwell?
No, I was from. We were all over the place, different places, but like born.
You just got lucky enough to go to school in
Stillwell,
America.
Yeah. We lived like halfway because we moved and lived halfway there, but like. My stepdad's family lived in Stillwell, or like the area, so we like kind of lived closer, and it was like half and half. So we went to Marietta and then came back here because we went to Pennsylvania for a little bit, come back and forth. So we were like different places. Yeah, it's like because my mom's sister lived there, and so we were like back and forth to different places.
What age were you in Pennsylvania?
Oh man, I was like 10, 11, something
like that.
You
remember it?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was. I actually liked it a lot, and I even told him, I said whenever I turn 18, I was gonna move back, and I was gonna live there because that's where I was gonna have my life. But there was, you know, always something about Tahlequah, and I was like, I don't want to be here forever.
You had your daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's another part of it.
Yeah, and I had, and then I moved to Tulsa. I moved to different areas. I was in Owasso for a little bit, and people.
I didn't even know you were in like out of Tahlequah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and that's the thing about it. Is like there's so many people that think that, there's different time frames where, I even almost moved to Wyoming for a little bit and different things. And then I was going to move to Carson City, Nevada. So I had all these plans and all these things I was going to work out. But in life that you learn, it's not everything's what it seems, and then things don't work out. And so I was all over the place.
Just roll with the punches.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I get people all the time when I make jokes about Tahlequah or make jokes about Oklahoma. They're like, oh, if you get out. It's like, I've been out. I know what it's like. I've been out and about. But it's just like,
I'm just making comedy about
exactly,
what I know.
Exactly. Like, this is what I'm around, and I plan on sticking around because there's so much potential that can be done here. And with all the stuff that I want to do,
what
there's
I
some
think
changes.
is so awesome about Oklahoma is the fact that we're right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the West Coast, we get the East Coast, we get Texas, we get what's up north, and it all just clashes into us.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's kind of funny because Devin and I, Devin Ashing, who owned Blindside Skate Shop for 13 years.
Oh, geez, I didn't know it was that long.
I'm going to interview him. He ran that whole way through junior high and high school.
Yeah, I remember he was young when he was doing that. Yeah.
We would fly out to San Diego to go to the ASR, the Action Sports Retail, this huge convention, and we saw Wiz Khalifa, all these rappers, all these pros, every pro skateboarder you've ever heard of, Tony Hawk, Day One Song, all these guys were there. And whenever we were doing all of this, we'd see styles, and we'd be like, man, that's weird. You know what I mean? They'd wear the weirdest stuff. And then, 2 years later, it would happen in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then, a year after that, it would be on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And it would almost like it always starts in the West Coast, and then it kind of fades across. And New York has a little bit of their own thing, obviously, because they've got a lot of fashion.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy.
it always kind of pulls off of the West Coast.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny because one time when I was younger, we went to California, and when we were there, I remember I was talking. I think I called my brother or my mom or somebody, and we were there, and they're like, "Oh, how's it over there?" It's my first time, and we went to a convenience store, and they had Code Red Mountain Dew. And they had it there, and I was like, "Oh, they got this Mountain Dew, but it's not regular Mountain Dew. It's like when it first came out. I was like, it's cherry, it's so good. I love it." And they're like, "What?" And they're like, "Nah." And then I was like, "No, you got to go to the store and find it." And I remember I got back and I tried to look everywhere, could not find it anywhere. And then probably a month later, it was like Code Red everywhere. And they're like, "Oh," I was like, and I was like, I knew that they're 2 hours behind us. I was like, but with style and different cool things, they're ahead of us. And it's like, if we could get that and just get it all at the same time. But I get it, the marketing, different things like that.
See, whenever I saw that, I thought it was. You ever heard of a Shirley Temple?
Oh yeah.
A Sprite with grenadine. Whenever I was a kid, we used to get to go to my family's hotel in Gallup, New Mexico, and we went to these family reunions, and everybody would get their bar drink, and my sister and I would get a Shirley Temple.
Oh yeah,
and we felt so grown. So when I saw Mountain Dew Code Red, I was like, okay, Shirley Temple in a bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's like get you a little hyped up and everything too, drinking it.
Well, let's switch tempos to something that's not so nice. Let's talk about this house fire. How long ago was this house fire that happened to you, or apartment fire?
Yeah, it's apartment fire.
Apartments.
Yeah. It was about almost 5 years ago.
What happened there? How did the fire start?
The guy who lived below us, he started up his car. It exploded. It happened at 6 a.m.
Did you hear it explode?
Yeah, it sounded like a gunshot. I thought it was right by where our window was because we were at the we were at the top. We were at the top. He was at the bottom, and where his car was parked was right by our window in the bedroom. And it happened about 6 o'clock. And the night before, I had a couple of drinks. We were bowling with some family, and the tire on the car was flat. And so I was going to wake up early before I had to go to work and everything to fix the flat. And I was, after a few drinks, I was kind of being lazy. I was like, oh, I'll get up in a little bit. About that same time, you hear a gunshot. And then you hear somebody scream, and I was like, someone just got shot. And I went from to, oh man, and so I was freaking out. And about that same time, we heard somebody yell fire, and then we get out. And this is the craziest thing because I bought a pair of brand new red Lakais, they were my favorite shoe, and I loved them. And I bought them, and I was like, no matter what, because I didn't have shoes on, I was like, I gotta get these things. I was like, where are my shoes? And about that same time, I looked, and they just got finished doing the stain on the stairs up to there.
Oh,
and the
man,
door was
so
open.
It was flammable.
And the carport caught, and it was like carport caught fire, and it was like cardboard, so it caught fire. And then the steps caught real quick. And all I can remember was I looked around, and then it was kind of in my mind, I was just like, this is the last time I'm gonna see this place. And I just grabbed my maroon Vans, and I threw those on, and I looked around, I was like, what do I gotta get? Because in your mind you plan, and when you're at a house fire, you're kind of like, oh, I would grab this, I would grab that, I would grab that.
Yeah, it's easy to say when it's not really happening.
But with all the smoke and the flames on every end, it's one of those things that's like, you're in your mind, you're like, I got to get out of here. So
my life is worth more than this stuff. What is the absolute most priority thing I need? And get out.
Yeah, and it was the craziest thing too, because whenever I got out there and I went downstairs, the neighbor, because the car that was on fire caught our car on fire, and the one on my car.
So the flat tire wasn't an issue.
No, not at all. Yeah, it was one of those things, and I'll get to that one part because that was kind of a stupid story.
How mad would you have been if you would have fixed the tire?
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. Like right after, like fix it and everything. But then when I ran down, my car caught the neighbor's truck on fire, and it's this big Dodge Ram. And so when I run down, it's on fire, and the engine explodes next to that. And all I could remember was hearing ringing and seeing smoke. And the first thought was like, I'm dead. I died, because it was just
oh my
ringing.
Gosh, this must be heaven, or I'm in the transition period.
Exactly, because in like the movies, I don't want to say war movies, but when an explosion happened, and you hear that ringing in the movie.
It was exactly
and you hear that, and that's what happened. And I remember, and I was like, oh my gosh! And then when I looked up, I could see, I saw Sarah, and then Maylee, and then this dude in his underwear, kind of standing there. He didn't have a shirt on, and there's like people standing around. And I'm like, I'm not dead, because I was like, I was freaking out. Yeah, exactly. And I was like freaking out. But yeah, and the thing that the main thing about, aside from, we lost a cat in there, and it was like horrible because it was our first family cat. But the craziest thing about that is, and that was what I was gonna get on that part too, is I saved up so many things because I kept thinking that I was going to try to make things perfect. I had stacks and stacks. I had a desk and a computer. And what was the worst part too is that there was a wall, and that wall that fell, that was right next to where my desk and computer and all my stuff. Like I just got the double monitor. I had all the equipment, all my film stuff. And then that wall fell, and I just watched everything on fire fall from that second floor and that second story. And then about that same time, news reporters, because it was like the biggest fire that happened at that time. Like nothing else like that happened around that area.
I don't remember anything of that magnitude, period.
Yeah. Really. And it was crazy. And I remember I saw that, and I'm thinking, it's like, luckily the family's out, but all these things, and I'm thinking all that stuff I worked on, all those things I did, I kept saving in notebooks because I'm old-fashioned. I like the pencil and paper.
Me
and
too.
I had these notebooks full of video ideas, short films, movies, scripts that I wrote, so much I put into it that I was like, I'm saving it for the good occasion, I'm saving it for the perfect occasion, I'm saving it for this. And I watched it all flame and fall. I remember I landed on my knees, and I was in tears, I was like,
how would you not be in tears?
But at that same time, this lady was like, she was like, can you tell us about the fire and everything? And she was a news reporter. And I was like, get the F away from here. I was like, get out of here. I was just like, scream. And they were like interviewing people. It's like, oh, I saw it from there. And actually, Max Talbert and Veronica, they lived a little while away from there. And they were the first ones. And he ran over there. He's like, grabbed me. And he's like, are you okay, man? I was like, yeah, I'm good. And, he's like, oh, I knew, and I was just like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was freaking out. And like, they were there. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it was like the craziest thing, and that's part of like I learned is just like, one thing it taught me is like, one, be careful when you change your tire because the car could explode next to you. Because I'm thinking in my head, it's like, what if I was down there changing the tire, and I'm, because I imagine in my head, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Or he'd wave at me, and then right next to it, because where the explosion happened is right next to that tire. So I'm like, part of me is like, I escaped, I don't want to say I escaped death, but like I got out of that. And then the exploding truck next to me, so I was like, there's two different times.
You would have been
scary.
Sandwiched.
Exactly,
It would have been a Matt Oreo.
Exactly, yeah, with the cars, and seeing that. And then it's like thinking about that, and then thinking about, I would be burned on the side, something like that, and I feel bad for the things that's like happening to people like that. Exactly, yeah, and that's what I was terrified of, because I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, and then I thought about that.
So you're sad about all your belongings, but then happy that you still have
life.
Exactly,
and it's just it's a messed up scenario, and it's messed up, circumstances for you to deal with, So I started thinking about that a lot. And then whenever as time went by, I used that as every experience. I kept taking at that. And one thing that got me was I was like numb afterward, because I was like, man, I was going to change my life with all those ideas. I was going to change all my stuff, because I didn't do what I do now and keep it in my phone. I kept it on pencil, paper, notebooks. I had it backed up. And I remember I was at work when I was still working at Walgreens, and I was like numb. Like I literally was like going, like I had a friend who bought me a big bottle of rum, and I finished it like in less than a day. Like I was depressed.
You're in a bad spot.
Very bad. And I was sitting there thinking about that, and I went to back to work after maybe less than a week. And I was sitting there, and I was like working, and some guy flipped out on me, and he was like mad about something about his pictures, because I was a photo guy there, and he's just like, you don't know what it's like to lose everything. And because I guess he lived somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in Hawaii, and like some kind of little mini hurricane or something like that messed up his house, and he's like, oh yeah, all my belongings were in trees and everything got messed up and my TV got ruined, and that set me off. I was just like, you
don't want to compare this?
Yeah, and
it's not the time.
I lost it. And about that same time, one of my managers was like, oh crap, and they didn't get me in trouble because they understood what I was going through. But about that same time, this lady was knocking on the door where by the office, and she's like, can I speak to him? And I was like, oh man, now I got this lady. And she sat there and she walked up, she goes, hey, she gave me this hug, and I was just like, okay, yeah. And I was like, I had no idea who this lady is. She goes, you're talking about what you're going through, and I was like, yeah. And she's just like, I recently just lost my son, and before that I lost my husband, and before that I lost one of my other sons.
Oh
and she's like, and I was
poor
just
lady.
yes, and I'm like, and it hit me, and about that same time I was like, what am I doing? I was like, granted, I can still be sad, but here I'm acting like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody.
Put you in perspective.
Exactly, and it really, and then she's like, I'm able to smile today. I know that they're with God. I know that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And about that same time I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, no. She's like, everybody handles things differently. And I was using that. So she goes, I can't make these videos. I can't film. I can't do anything. I can't do nothing because I lost everything. I can't do this. And I just used that as an excuse. And then I had to be like, I got to snap out of it. I got to do something different.
I've got to still have a life.
Exactly. Because I can't, and it took a little bit of time after that to get situated. And then it wasn't until,
I'm guessing you didn't go back to that apartment.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
we just ended up taking off and moving and getting out of there because and for a longest time I couldn't even step foot in an apartment. It terrified me because I was like, what if the one next to it catches fire, and carports, stuff like that.
See, my biggest fear would have been bugs from next door. Now I'm thinking of a car fire.
You never even, and see, the thing about it is my fear was when we first moved into that apartment, I was terrified of somebody falling asleep with a cigarette or leaving a candle or leaving something plugged in, because and it still affects me to this day because I have a fireproof safe, and then if I think and I'm already with my with my anxiety and everything anyways, I'm already panicking. It's did I leave the stove on? I gotta turn around. I've been late for work and everything because I'm freaking out about it.
How could you not be after
exactly.
that happened?
Yeah, and it made it extreme. Your anxiety level on steroids.
Oh, that'll never happen. Oh, it happens.
Exactly. And that was one of the things. And there was and the lady told us, she was like, it's rare for that to happen in an apartment complex. Because I was like, well, if someone leaves a candle, because I'm like, did somebody leave a light on and something busted or something shorted out?
But actually, my friend Nick Crittenden, who's a firefighter, says that the most common thing is space heaters.
Oh yeah.
If you plug more than one space heater, are you afraid of my space heater?
Yeah. It's like, oh.
But if you plug more than one space heater into the same line that goes to the breaker, it will actually overpower the breaker, and it starts an electric fire in the breaker box.
Yeah.
So I was always thinking that they meant that the heater itself caught on fire, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
It sends an electric surge back into the breaker box, and once you've got that much electricity backing a fire, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. They said that some people will take those power strips and then plug in another power strip, and it's does too much, and it starts sparking, and people have stuff around, and it just starts, and it's that was one of the biggest fears. And then people are like, oh yeah, that's a big fear of mine too. And it's oh, what started yours? I was like, a car. What the heck? And it's the carport, and then it caught the balcony, and just went from there, and it just went crazy. And like I said, it still affected me, and I still to this day, I have a fireproof safe where I have my camera and I have my equipment, because I'm scared, because I'm and I sat there and think about man, I don't want to live like that, living in a box and in a fireproof safe, because who's to know that that's not actually going to work, if it gets hot enough. I heard stuff melting inside, stuff like that.
I don't know about any of that. Did you get any reparations from insurance?
Nothing. We didn't have renter insurance at all, because
the apartment complex was just sorry.
Yeah, basically because we didn't have.
Did you get your deposit back?
No. Well, yeah, because it was funny because in the bathroom there was a towel rack, and it got pulled off. I don't know what happened, but it got pulled off, and so it left a big hole. And that was the first thing I was like, oh man, the apartment, we're not going to get that deposit back because that big hole. And I was like, well, there's nothing here.
Yeah, so it's all burned down. That was one of the things.
That was one of the things that we did get the deposit back, and it was crazy because and that was one of the other things coming back to the time back to that. And one of the reasons why is because I, for the longest time, was I want to find a place to go to where everybody, because I want my daughter to grow up in a place where people have each other's backs, people are there for each other, people, and the amount of love that every person in Tahlequah. We had couches, we had dinner tables. I mean, there were so many things that people were just handing over. People would walk in and be like, I had no idea. I've only maybe seen them one time, helped them, and walk up and give me $500. I'm like, oh no, I can't take that. They're like, you're family. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but what is your name? They're like, you've helped me before. You're like a family member. I see you every day. I see you around. And just the amount of people who were just, busting their butts to get us things and do things and just hand over everything. And I'm like, wow, like that's,
and that kind of helps you to get through it.
Exactly, yeah. And there's like so much support, and that's one of the things is like I want to go back to being able to like give back to people in Tahlequah, because I mean there are those flaws, but that's going to be anywhere. But then there's so many people who are just so supportive and so great, and so and that's what's just like, how can I give back? How can I try to help? How can I mean we had so many beds, couches and everything. We were trying to get a hold of the other people who lost everything, who may not have had that opportunity or have had that. And was like, hey, you need a bed, you need a couch, you need a table, you need anything.
Trying to network.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I mean, we had to get a storage shed to fill all this stuff. We had so many things, and we're like, and people were like, sell it. I'm like, no, we don't. I mean, how's our place to sell it? We're just like, you guys need this, you need that.
Let me give it to somebody.
Exactly, because it was amazing that so many people, and that's one of the reasons it was like, maybe it's not so bad, because I was finding all the negative things about Tahlequah for the longest time, because I was like, oh, it's so small and everything, and people, and that's what it goes back to with my filmmaking. Everybody's like, you got to get out of Tahlequah. You're not going to make it in Tahlequah. And, you're not going to do anything like that. And it's not going to do it. But I was like, but I can still, there's still ways around. There's still ways. Definitely. There's still people. I mean, there's people out there making money doing their thing. I mean, there's nowadays, I mean, you can syndicate stuff, you can easily do things like that. There's ways around it. Like I had people sending stuff to me for me to edit that I sent back to them. One of my buddies, he's in San Diego. Me and him always syndicate stuff and doing things like that. He puts my stuff out, we do things. I mean, it's you networking.
Definitely. I network with Adam Lander. He does websites and he builds computers, and then I do graphic design. So rather than just saying, oh, I don't know how to do that, I just say, oh, I got a partner. You know what I mean? He does that.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch back to talking about some videos. So, what is what's the most views you've got off one of your Facebook videos? Oof. Can you remember?
Yeah, I know there's one that because I remember watching it. The everybody went to high school with this guy. That one. Yeah, that one was up in the millions. It was
millions.
Like almost like 4.5 million, something like that views.
Oh my
on that.
Gosh, I was gonna think you were gonna say 1 million.
Well, no, it went up there because I remember, because it wasn't until the Baker Mayfield one that I did, and it got that Throw It Like Mayfield one I did, and it kicked off, and then out of nowhere that one just started going, and I remember my phone just kept blowing up.
Did it spike the other videos
I think
around
so.
it?
Yeah. And then after that time frame, any video I did, it was just kicking up there, and it was like it kept hitting up to 1 million, and things like that happened. And I remember
you had a few that were over.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I remember when I first did one, and I got 1,000 views. And I was like, oh my God, I got 1,000 views.
I mean, that's how I feel right now. You know what I mean?
And I felt amazing. And then as time went by, and I did, I remember I went, and I was hanging out with Tyler Harris, as a matter of fact. He goes, have you seen that one video you did, the one I did with the whenever they found that cocaine in the in the candy or something like that?
Oh my gosh, I remember that they found weed in the Laffy Taffies, and then they found something in the bananas.
Cocaine in the bananas.
And I was like, what's going on in Tahlequah?
Yeah, so I did that video because because my thing was I was always wanting to come up with an idea for things that people would be searching for, and then make it, find a way to try to because people are
take the relevant topic and make it funny.
Exactly, and then so many people, because I remember hearing about that, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's drugs around over there, so scary and this that." And I remember hearing about that. I was like, it doesn't have to be though. It is, and that's a reality. But if we keep taking that thing and make it something so negative, there's no way for anybody to find any kind of positive. It's like, yeah, they may be here, but that's not everywhere. That's not everybody. That's there are those people like that. So I was trying to find ways.
There's those people like that everywhere.
Exactly, and I mean, no matter where you go, there's going to be drugs. There's things about it that people don't even know, like that. That's one thing I learned about Wagner, of all places, was like one of the biggest places that there's. My older brother moved there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, there's like drugs there, drugs there." I'm like, Wagner, of all places.
I heard that about Poto.
They
have the world's tallest hill and a bunch of meth. Apparently,
yeah, and it's like Stillwell. We're moved from Stillwell, like all that stuff like that. And that one where I went to the grocery store, and I came back and was like, hey guys, I went to a grocery store. I was like, found some meth, and I was like, found this in the meat department, and pulled out that gun. That one was blowing up a lot, and it had so many shares. And I remember it almost hit 7,000. And I remember I was with Tyler Harris, and I was sitting at the bar, and I was sitting there, I was just like, man, if this hits 7,000 tonight, I'm chugging this pitcher of beer, because I was like, that was big to me.
Dad, that's big to me.
Yeah, and it went.
I was excited about my 3,000 on that commercial.
Yeah, and I did that, and it hit. And then whenever I checked it, and Tyler was just like, check it out, and he looked at it, and it was like almost at 8,000 views. And I was like, and I was like, this is crazy, and that blew my mind. And then I had another one like a little while after that hit 100,000, and I was just like, oh my God,
I made it.
This is crazy.
I made it.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm viral, And then after that million happened, because I always everything I do, I always want to do that much better, no matter what.
Of course. And it sets the new tone.
Exactly. And I was like, my goal is to hit 1 million. And then when I hit that over 4 million, and I mean, sometimes I still get notifications of people sharing it, and it blew my mind. And I had like, I remember when that was happening, I checked my phone, and I had like 100 and something friend requests, and people messaging me. It's like, oh my God, you're so funny. And then with all the good, there was a whole bunch of bad, and then there was good. And
how is that dealing with the negative comments? You just ignore it, or did you at first have to read it and go, you know what, I need to ignore this?
It was pretty tough because I mean, I still, like, to this day, like,
I mean, you put on a dress and a wig in some of your videos.
And that's where I had to learn, because like being that people pleaser that I am, you know, I had to sit there and think about it and go from there and sit there and be like, these people are, they're going to be out there. They're going to be haters. And I learned, and what was good for me to make me get thick skin was during that, sitting there, seeing these people's reaction, I knew that there was just going to be trolls. People are just going to want to hate you and do different things like that. And then I had to sit there, and there's sometimes I'll see some of them, and I'll type out some, I guess I'm not using a computer anymore. You know, I'll type out something, and I'll be like, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to say that? And I'm like, people are going to see this. People are going to hear this, and they're going to think that. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be known as that guy, because I'm not that guy. I was just trying to defend my honor, defend myself, you know? And then whenever I just kept doing it, and it's like, you know, people keep on and keep on. So instead I just was like, and that's why some of the times I make those posts on Facebook, because I'm like, this is a joke, you know? And then I thought, instead of being that guy who gets upset about it, you know, like mad about it. Yeah, exactly. And being that negative, because I mean, it's just negative, firefighting fire, and, you know, negativity versus negativity. It's like, if it could stop with me, and be like, dude, it didn't faze me, it didn't bother me, and I was hoping
and
that
if you let it go, it takes their steam away.
Exactly, and that's what people are like. Oh, I try to get a rise out of him, and if it doesn't, you know, and then people are like, oh, I can't affect him. You know, when you learn as kids, but then when you really get shown that when you're an adult of all times, you're just like, I really want to say this or do this, and then so I was like, I thought it'd be cool, like, to make a few posts so that way people can see that, and then they see that, I'm like, man, his guy who, because sometimes I hate saying that. I was like, oh, well, people think I'm so great at saying this stuff, but a lot of people don't realize how, like, even though, you know, I do what I do, and I've had, you know, I hate saying success, but like my personal goals have been achieved, you know, but there's so much more I can do, and I plan on doing, I am gonna do. But when they see that, they don't think that they're like, oh, he makes videos and they're funny, everybody loves him, because they see all that. They see the views, they see the likes, they see the shares, they see all the good comments.
They don't see the backside.
But they don't see the backside. So when I make a comment about it, people are like, people say bad stuff about you? What? People hate you?
I can't believe it.
Exactly. And then some people's like, how do you deal with it? How do you, and they get pointers, and like, you know, I look up to you because you handle it so well. You do this stuff. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, man, I want to be like, you know, screw you, do this and stuff. And I just recently downloaded TikTok. Have you heard of TikTok?
Yeah, I hate that, but I hope something good comes out of it.
So
the commercials are terrible.
So Musically, I guess, is the one that started that up, or, you know, went from there. And so when I heard about TikTok, I thought it was nothing but Musically. You know how they lip sync and do the videos?
Yeah, I did too. Is it more?
Yeah, Vine. Like, and people to this day, I still get people like, there's the Vine guy. Never made a Vine in my life. I wrote ideas that I thought would be funny, like little quick ideas. Never got a chance to do it because Vine was gone by the time I really started like getting out there thinking I
never even did it.
Never even tried it. And so I was told by one of my friends, she's on TikTok, and she's, you know, doing pretty well on it. And she was like, you should try TikTok so bad. I was like, I don't lip sync, I don't do that stuff. I'm a 31-year-old man, you know, I don't do that. And she goes, no, you know Vine? She's like, it's just like Vine. You can do the lip syncing, but you can do Vine stuff.
They should really advertise some of the other features, because when I see it, I'm just like,
like people like lip sync and everything. Yeah. So I went ahead and started about a couple weeks ago now, and I started up, and I posted it, and I posted my first one, and I started getting it. But one thing that's different about TikTok is that there's so many, and I thought it was a bunch of kids, but like there's a lot of like older people, but there are a handful of kids. But everybody's brutal on there. They'll go off on you and say some stuff. And so I saw that, and I was just like, dang, you know, it's like they're all mean, you know that. And you know, I went from there, and I started getting. I went from 0 fans to 30 fans, and now I think after 2 weeks I got like almost 200 fans, and like it went like pretty quick.
Growth.
Yeah, and then my friend, she was like, yeah, you're gonna, you know, get pretty high up there because you have a lot of original content. You're gonna do things like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, you know. So I'm like,
I found an outlet.
Exactly, and here I am, because in my mind, because I had a YouTube and I canceled it because I took that break from it. And the way that, you know, the algorithm and all the stuff with that, and the way that stuff works, if you take a break, it's hard to like have everything go up and then go back down.
Exactly.
And so I took a break from it. If I was smart, I would have capitalized on whenever those videos were going viral, and I would have, you know, made my new one. But I took after those ones were going big. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but whenever those ones were getting big, and I was hitting the millions and, you know, doing things like that, I had a whole bunch of Christmas materials around Christmas last year, and my Facebook account got hacked.
I saw you had some weird Arabic name for like a year or something.
It was 6 months that it was set up like that. So, and I
almost didn't know if it was you anymore. But there was a picture of you riding a unicorn.
And I lost a lot of people that way, a lot of followers, a lot of friends.
You basically had a Facebook fire.
Yeah, exactly. Like, man, it was one thing after another, and even from that, I was just like, oh no, it's another setback because I'm gonna start all over and all the work I put in, and it was so cool because there were so many, and that's one thing that's amazing too with doing this. There's so many supportive people who are all like, oh, we're here for you, want to help you do this, and I was like, man, that's amazing, and I mean, those people really help out. Like, there's some of them
make up for the bad.
Yeah, exactly, and you see all these likes and all these shares, and it really means something, So, then I had to get back from that and had to start all over again, and it was hard to go from hitting the millions to like putting up another one in like 1,000 views, and average. And
what used to get you excited doesn't get you excited.
Exactly, and I have a handful of them, and then it's like whenever I'm like, but I hit 1 million, but this one could hit that, and then I had to be like, people are watching it, people are sharing it, people are commenting, people are saying that's what means something.
Yeah,
to
and
me.
you're getting what you wanted. You put it out there, people are enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you something that I learned as a young kid. My mom used to love to go to Al-Anon. Do you know what that is? Mm-hmm. Well, there's AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and then there's Al-Anon, which is for the family that lived with an alcoholic.
Okay, yeah.
So she'd go to these meetings and she'd drag me along. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, I hated these meetings, but I actually learned a lot as a young child. And when I remember being like 8 years old at these Al-Anon meetings, and one of the things they'd always say that stuck with me my whole life is 50% will like you, 50% won't, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I just always knew that from a young kid. And so when people just didn't like me, I was like, whatever, I got other friends. Get out of here. Whatever, you know what I mean?
And it's like trying to be a people pleaser, though. Like, be that person. Because I see somebody will pop up in my people you may know, and it's somebody like I was a friend with, and then I see that they weren't on my Facebook, and even to this day, I still struggle with I'll be honest, and I'll see that, I'm like, what did I do? And then I had some people who like, I had a friend who was going through some stuff, and he was having a hard time coming out. And I made a couple of jokes like about like gays, like hunting with gays, during apocalypse with gays, and he was so offended by it, and I didn't think about it because people loved it, but then I was like, oh man, they love it, but then I was thinking about the people who like I cared about and like friends, and I was like, man, I
face the same thing with religious posts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I'm not trying to do anything, and I never even bash, but they just won't like the scriptures, you know, and I just I try to stay neutral, but anymore it's really hard because like I try to love everybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's almost just like you can't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing about it. It's like, you can, a lot because I'm all about live and let live, like you do your thing, as long as you don't affect anybody else, you're not harming anybody. And that's one reason why I don't mess with religion. I don't make videos about stuff like that. I made the video, I don't know if you remember, I did with, where I was walking around and I kept going for the lotion, and then I played that I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Oh yeah.
And then Jesus kept popping up, and I did that one, and so many people were like, "Oh my gosh, you can't be God, you can't." I was like,
I think that was hilarious.
Yeah, and see,
I'm Christian, and I thought that was funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm like, that's good.
Yeah, and it was just, and I don't think people understand some of the, like I don't want to say like, oh, I'm deep with some of the stuff, but there's so many things that have like some meanings that I have behind stuff that like I try to find a way to like. I don't want to say tiptoe around it, but I find a way to like make it into a humorous way where there could, like, not all of them. There's some of them that just, I'll admit, there's some of them that are dumb. There's some of them I just think would be a funny joke, but I try not to base it around like, oh, this is a funny joke, so I'm going to write around it. I started to make from the beginning, engage, drop the, have the, big kicker, the joke, and then at the end, fizzle it down and still have them engaged, and then have to have a good heading and top it off to make it them laughing, to think it's funny and to like make them want to watch it, and then some of them I've put up there and like, this may not do good, but I'm gonna post it, and then it blows up. And then there's some of them, and that's one of the things too that I always want to be is I want to be relatable to things. I want people to relate and understand and be able to be like, oh, I know that person, oh, I got that, there's something like that, and oh, that,
Well, that's one thing about your videos. I always feel like they're relatable.
Yeah.
Like, the country guy, or everybody went to school with this guy, or the mom at the basketball game.
Yeah.
Like all of that is like so real. It's just like, oh, yep, I can relate.
Yeah, because I watched for the longest time. I saw like Camden comedy because I tried my I'm still working on trying to get my comedian, trying to be that and trying to do some stand up and like work with that. And I did back in the day. I've had some not so great moments with when it came to comedy at the time. And so whenever I think after everything, and whenever I first started getting back into it, and I knew I was just like, man, I'm gonna start posting videos. It was on Father's Day. I was always sad about. I always hated Father's Day. You know, it's always got me.
Yeah, me too.
And it was like a tough time. And it's kind of different when you have kids. You know, it's like, you know, you start thinking about it. But I remember I was like, because sometimes I like to be, you know, I like to go off on my own and walk around. And I remember I was walking out there and had my phone. And I was just like, kind of like, you know, just like kind of down, like, man, you know, if only I knew my dad, you know. And I walked out there, and I remember I walked down the yard, and I saw a football, and so I picked it up. I was like, you know, I was like,
playing catch with yourself.
Yeah.
I
was just like,
video.
I was like, here, Dad, you know, joking around, not even with the camera. I was like, here, Dad, you know, I threw it, and it was nothing. And I was just like, I'm gonna film that, you know. So I was just like, hey guys, just out here playing catch with my dad, and I threw that football, and that blew up. Like
that resonated with me. Obviously,
yes.
I was like, oh my god, it's hilarious.
Yeah, and there's so many people, and I think that's the thing that got me, is because, you know, here I was like, I mean, I knew that there's a lot of people out there who's like, oh, I don't know my dad, you're not the only one, but to see how much support, and people like, I mean, even was like, I'll be your dad, you know, people like, and so many people like comments like, oh, me too, same, oh, I complete, and all the shares, and I didn't even know about making it public or anything like that, and one of my friends, she was like, you should make this public so that people can see it, or share it, so people share it, and so they started doing that, and it just nonstop, and I was just like, and people are like, do more videos, and I was just like, oh my god.
And it's crazy how Facebook can really blow you up.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. And then whenever, after a while of posting them, making the videos, and I was like, I got to do this. This is my thing. You know, I was grinding, you know, doing all that stuff, writing, constantly coming up with ideas. I mean, like I said, I'm full of ideas, so many different ones to do, and I was doing that, and I was learning things. Like for a long time, I held my phone, you know, like this, and then I started learning, turn it sideways, do this.
Yeah, just a little thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I came up with the outro, you know, different things like that. And there's still so much that I could still do to make it different and make it better. You know, I was doing all these things after a while, and I was like learning, and people were like, oh, you know, teach me this, teach me that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I still have no idea. I'm just
learning as I go.
Exactly. You know, and it just, and as time went by, you know, I kept going on, and people were commenting, and I mean, it was just nonstop, like, you know, people like just were like, oh yeah, you're so great, and everything. So it's like, people like me, people love me, I'm doing good, you know, and I just loved it, you know. And it was just like, I was like, I got to keep being funny and doing stuff, because I mean, I was always making jokes. I mean, as long as you know me, I was like, I'm always joking around, you know. But then I was just like, but then there's a part of me who's kind of like, man, I want to do my scary stuff though. I want to scare people.
So are you gonna have some scary stuff coming in the future?
Actually, yeah, I have. There was a few things I've worked on.
Well, warn me so I don't watch it.
Yeah. I was like, don't, you know, I'll tag you. Don't watch this. But yeah, I had a few opportunities in the past couple of years. That's one thing, like you know, you were talking with John Boy about too, is like how long it takes for stuff, because like I learned a lot about, you know, because there's still like there's stuff that I worked at in some of the projects that like aren't even out yet, you know. And one of my favorite filmmakers, you know, Jordan Peele, you know, with his stuff, I mean, to get his stuff and mastered it, he said, what's that, Get Out took about 8 years to get everything perfect. Now he's got 4 movies coming out of it, the whole thing. It took like
I don't know how those things could stay relevant.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. And for him to come out with that kind of thing. And, you know, with that, and it's like I had a couple people, production people I worked with, and there was some negativity with that. And my thing is like, I think what I tried to do, and one thing, I guess it's good and bad, is that I wanted to choose how I became, that's one of the reasons why I stick with the one-man show too, is because I wanted to teach, or how am I saying to say it? I wanted to pick how I became where I want to be at with, like, for instance, like I had an opportunity to work with these guys on a film, and they knew about my horror background, you know, doing different things like that, and had how my writing, and they've you know, word of mouth, people saying stuff they've seen a couple of my old skits, and they were so pumped about working with me, and they're like, we'll produce this, and you know how productions work, you know, different things like that. And they were like, they came to me and they're like, let's do this, let's do that. And they wanted to do one about the Girl Scout murder things that happened in Locust Grove.
Yeah.
And they were like all about it. They had this whole thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that, you know, and I didn't know too much about it. Like I wasn't too familiar. And in my mind, I'm thinking like a Jason Voorhees type camp type thing, you know, older, you know, people. And then when I got to the part where they were going to have the scene of what really happened, and then I watched some things of what really happened, and they wanted to do that using the same age frame, same age as my daughter, those scenes, I was like, no, I don't want to be a part of it. And they're like, no, you have to. I was like, no, I don't, because I was like, if I want to work with it, I don't want that scene. I didn't want to sound cocky because they were paying for it. They were doing all stuff. I was just basically going to have my name on it.
But you didn't want to back that.
Yeah, I didn't want to be a part of it. And that was one of the ones I posted about a while back, that people were like, what happened to that movie? What happened to that movie? And I made the mistake of being like, oh, guys, working on a big project. It's going to be this movie, you know, I think we were looking for a few people. And I was so pumped about it. And then that happened, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want my name on that. You know, it's bad enough to have those scenes, you know.
How often do you have people like, hey, share my stuff, share this.
All the time.
I want you to boost me. I want your fame. I want whatever. You've got this following here. Share my stuff.
All the time. I get people. I did it for a little while and started sharing people's stuff to help out because I mean, as you can tell with the boards and stuff, like any of my friends who, you know, they're doing their thing and I see, you know, them grinding, doing things like that. No pun intended, you know, but you know, and like doing their thing, I'm a big supporter, you know, like the bands, I try to go to every show, try to be front and center, you know, getting boards, you know, doing things like that. And I was there for a while. I was like, man, I want to use my stuff and like share, you know, and be like, oh yeah, check this out, check out that. And there's a few occasions where I did it, and you know, they got some stuff, but then they looked deeper into their things and then saw some inappropriate stuff that I don't stand for, that I don't, because like I said, I don't.
Oh man, so you shared a video you thought was funny, and then they click their page and find a bunch of inappropriate videos.
Yeah, and like that's one thing that's
like, oh, this is Matt's friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're like, that's Matt, and he had something to do with it. And then people start picking me, like saying stuff about like me being like that and associating my videos with stuff. And I noticed like some of the people that were like big followers, and like there for a little while, I was like, I'd message them like, hey, you know what happened? Is everything okay? Because I was like, did I offend you and stuff? They're like, oh, you're
guilty by association.
Yeah. You did this video and you did that. I was like, that's not me, you know. And then I started getting like, I shared a couple of memes. For I think I'm saying that memes. Yeah, I shared a couple of them, and then like people were like doing different things, and it's like, you need to start doing cred for those, and you know, whoever did them or anything. And then I would do mine, and I wouldn't do any watermark or anything, and then people would know the difference between it. So I was like, you know what? From now on, I'm gonna do nothing but my own stuff, and I hate it because we got some talented people around there. I got some really talented friends, and I want to share their stuff and be able to like, go check out this, go check out that, but.
And your job will affect that.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And then somewhere you work, they'll be like, hey, you don't need to be supporting
exactly.
This
and it's just like, you're doing this and you're doing that, and you know, we can't have somebody working, you know, doing stuff like that. I'm just like, that's not me, you know. That's because like I said, and that's the one thing people are shocked, because like all my videos, I've not one time dropped the F-bomb, and if I did not dropped it, but I act like I'd say it and then I'd bleep it out, because I realized that I got like younger kids, you know. There's people like I went to my daughter's school, and there's a kid wearing my shirt, you know, like walking around.
Wow.
And I was just
this
like,
shirt here.
Yeah. And I was just like, I was shocked because I was just like, oh my god, like this kid's, you know, and it's like different
You're
things.
almost like a little celebrity in Tahlequah. Do people come up? Do they like, hey, oh my gosh, you're that Facebook, YouTube guy,
the video guy? They always said the video guy. They always say they always say stuff like that. And it was the funniest thing because I had one lady walk up, and I was sitting there and I was doing something, but anyways, I was sitting there, and this lady walked up. She goes, hey, are you Matt Scrapper? And I was like, and I just go with it now. I'm like, yeah, you know, because everybody says scrapper and says scraper, and I was just like, yeah, that's me.
Sure.
And she was like, you know, I was like, yeah, and she goes, oh my god, are you serious? You know, are you serious?
Sign my boobs.
Yeah, exactly. But she was like, she goes, my daughter is a huge fan of you, and I am too, and we watch your videos all the time. She's like, you know, and I was just like, and I didn't know what to say because I mean, I'm awkward as it is anyways. I'm just kind of like, yeah, you know, tell her I said hi. I don't know what to say. And she goes, can you sign this for me? And she hands me this napkin. You know, I've never signed an autograph. You know, I never did anything like that.
Wait a second.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and in my head, I mean, anybody could say that they don't get a big head, but I think in mine more is pride, and, you know, because I'm just like loser kid who don't know what I'm doing with stuff, and
now
I
got this great reaction.
Yeah, and so like I tried to sign it. First thing I did, I was like, I wrote it, and I did it real fast to try to do this M and this little thing, and I ripped it, and I was like, I looked at her, and she looked at me like. And I was like, awkward.
Is this your first time?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I was like, it is my first time. And then there's people that want to take pictures with me, and they want to like, you know, and it's just like crazy. And I'm sitting there, and there's so many people. It's like, oh, you're Tahlequah famous. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know, because people know me in different videos. But then I like went to Tulsa, and then people were like, oh, there's that guy. I was in Dallas at Warped Tour. People were recognizing me. There's people from different areas.
Well,
like,
if your videos have 4 million views, people are gonna recognize you.
People from Hawaii. There was a lady I used to work with. Her aunt or somebody lives in somewhere, Montana or something like that, and she did something, and she came all the way from there, and one of the main purposes to meet me. She wanted to get a picture with me, and like, and I was just like, that's not true, and she's like, no, she really did, and she was like, oh, it's you, you know, and it's like some of the stuff, and I'm just like, I'm just a regular dude, you know. I
just make these videos for fun, but cool,
yeah, exactly, yeah. And then so with that being said, it bugged me because I'm like, saw the following that I have on you know, Facebook, and you know, different, you know, the followers and friends and people, you know, trying to add me and everything. And I said, and I saw that, and I was like, you know, I need to bring back my YouTube, because with Facebook, one thing that's about that is when you put something on Facebook, that becomes Facebook's. That's their thing, and anybody can get a hold of anything. A couple of videos that I did, like cowboyish type videos and hunting videos, they cut my logo out, and they took out that video, and they edited it a little bit and changed it up, and they shared it on their page. There's a a TV show, or not TV show, something that's like a local TV hunting show, and then a couple other ones that used my stuff.
Just took all your credibility away.
Took my stuff, and I see these videos being shared that other people have on there, and it have nothing to do with it. They didn't contact me to do anything like that. And they're getting like millions of views from their stuff. Oh
man, so you could have made a little bit of money or something off of
that. And then
I
look at it and their logo's at the end. And I'm like, that's me. Like, what do you, and I said, and I was like, do I get mad? Do I sit there and say, oh, well, that's me?
You still be happy that people are watching it, but man, it would be nice for you to monetize if somebody's going to monetize it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that bugged me about Facebook, because it was like, there's so many things that people can get by with those things. And I was like, I got to change something up. I got to do something different. So I started my YouTube channel, and I was like, I started back up, doing Sweet Action Bro. And I was like, I'm going to do this.
How can people find you on YouTube?
Just look up Sweet Action Bro.
Sweet Action Bro.
Yeah, Sweet Action Bro. Yeah, and I did that, and everything was kicking off. I had people, subscribe, and everybody's like, subscribe, and I was like, man, it's gonna kick off, and then I can, do this, and I don't have to worry about Facebook, and I can actually, after a while, because they have a thing where you have to, what started with 2019, because that Logan Paul thing that happened, you have to have 40 hours of view time that the people watch, and then you have to have up to a certain, within a year, have 1,000 subscribers. Once you get to that point, then they start looking at to where they can start putting ads and stuff, and you can start getting paid. You don't make a lot, but once you start getting in the millions, I mean, there's people out there making $2,500 a month easily, from just making videos.
And I know a lot of people that make it off of affiliations. If you become like an Amazon affiliate, and somebody follows the link and buys the stuff, you get a percentage too.
Yeah.
And I've seen that as well. Yeah. So if somebody wants to sponsor our waters, we have to quit buying them at the gas station. We'll accept that.
Yeah, start making your own, plug water or something like that. Doing things like that, and that's what, and I was just like, man, people are gonna like switch over. I can get all that following over there. I'm gonna kill it, and do it like it's nothing. And then it's like I got 129 subscribers, and it's like that reality set in. I was just like, oh, and I started back up in October, because I had a pretty good following, before I canceled it, but then I started back up in October, and I have 129. I'm just like, man, I was like, in my mind, I was like, it would be so much, easier. But then that's like, I need that because it knocks me back down. Because I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. Because when people call me a celebrity, I'm like, no, I'm not. So, or people like, oh, you're famous, and they take pictures. I'm like, why though?
Yeah,
like,
you're just known.
Yeah, but it's so, that support is so amazing, and I love it.
Do you think the mullet gives you away?
I think that's what it is. Well, no, and then sometimes it's funny too, because like people walk up and it's like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And and there for a while, instead of being awkward, like freezing up, like, oh yeah, okay, doing things like that, and I'll be like, oh, so it's like, so which of my videos do you like? Because I'm getting used to it. I'm getting more comfortable with like the pictures and stuff. I'm like, oh, so which video? Like, what video? And I'm like, what? And they're like, what? And they're like, oh, I just took a picture of you because your mullet. And I'm
because
like,
of your mullet. So you were all excited about the video.
Because I was like,
oh, your hair.
Yeah, it's like either that, or somebody will walk up to me and be like, they'll repeat one of my videos or like a line from one of my videos, and I'll be like, I'm like, what? Excuse me? And like there was one of them I did about a girl in a car, and it's just like that. What? I like smoothies. That's not something about smoothies. And I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, the smoothies. And I'm like, what smoothies? And she's like, your video. I'm like, I still didn't know what she was talking about. And then later on it hit me. I was like, oh, the crazy girlfriend in the car,
Yeah, because that's an old video. Yeah. So it's like way back in the back of your head.
And it's just like, I got to start remembering that, start catching on with that kind of stuff. Because like, and that's the thing about it is like, I don't like, I'll come up with that idea. Like for instance, the basketball mom one, I went to see my daughter cheer at a game, and I saw a couple, moms like, not as that extreme, but they were kind of like, into the game. And I was like, man, that'd be funny, like to see a mom just like go crazy, and like just, kind of act weird and act crazy, because you see it. I've seen it before, and it kind of hit me. And then it's just like, okay, like mom, doing this. And I was like, what do they have at basketball games? Nachos, they have pickles, they have stuff like that. And then set up the camera.
So when you go to these events, you're almost like your mind just goes oh man, I could make this funny.
Everything in video. I do the stuff like, and not just that, but I think about the scenes in any location that I'm at. I'm just like, man, I could actually use that to like, have a scene where somebody walks in, because I use that as a defense mechanism.
Like scouting.
Yeah, exactly. And I did that when I was younger, going through hard times, dealing with like depression and stuff, not to get on that side of it, but, dealing with stuff like that, things with, parents, back in the day, I used, filmmaking, I used, creating my own little world as a defense mechanism. And I was always like playing, the stuff, because we didn't have enough money, we didn't have like TV, and most kids would sit in front of the TV, and I did that for a while, watching, those old time shows when they were good back in the day, and I do that, and then in my mind, exactly, and I'd sit there and I would think stuff, and I'd be like, I'd create, something, and create a world, and create different things, and watch stuff, and and then I turn everything into a movie. And sometimes I feel like it's a blessing and a curse in a way, because like I love that I can do it, and I can like come up with something, and I'll be with a group of guys like, we can do this, and it's like done. And I've been even told I'm the Little Wayne of film, making skits, because they're like, you pull it out
all the time. Does it sometimes make you feel like you're not in the moment?
Exactly. That's the worst. That's the worst part about it, is that like sometimes I feel like I'm not if I'm writing or typing up stuff, I'll sit there and like come up with an idea. Like even now, I'm like, I thought of a few things, I was just like, but I got to kick myself out of that and be like, I need
you
to
probably thought of ideas while we've sat here.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, definitely. And
I got to keep this in my head.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, thinking about, I was like, I can't stop. I'm like, hold on a second, and it's just, and that's the thing about it. It's like I miss all that stuff because it's like, I'm there. It's not everything's a movie, not everything's a video, not everything's a film, and especially with like, I got a couple, because I remember we talked about one of the films I'm making in Tahlequah, shooting here, and I'm doing some of the stuff like kind of the, that sense in a, world, like kind of seeing things how Tahlequah is, not all the negativity, but then also the good stuff, and then kind of doing stuff like that, and I was driving through here and it's like, oh, that's a good spot, and then a song would come on, and one thing I use the app Shazam all the time, because it's like, I'll hear a song, it's like,
what is that song?
Yeah, and then I'm like, that's good for this scene, and now I got to figure out the copyright stuff with that, and it's just, and like I said, it's cool, but it's like,
it can get overwhelming.
Exactly, definitely, it's because there's always stuff going on in this thing.
Well, we are well over an hour, so let's knock into some of these key points here I've got written down. I've got Walmart trips.
Oh, man.
Dude, you are a Walmart, like, you've got a funny story every time you go in there. Is it because of your mentality? Is it because of your hair? Is it because they know you from the video? Is it a combination of all these things? You can't walk into Walmart without something funny happening.
Yeah, I'm always observant. Anywhere I'm at, one of my biggest thing I always say is be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what's going on, because not everybody's doing that. You get told that as a kid, playing in the street, like, people aren't paying attention, you better pay attention. And I do that kind of stuff. And then sometimes, like, I don't go grocery shopping all at once. Like, I don't pick everything up. Sometimes I go and just get a couple of things here and there. And it's like, when I pass work and I go by there, I'm like, I'll stop by there, kind of do a little bit of walking around, doing some scouting, doing some thinking, and then things happen, and then people, some of the ones like asking me for money, saying stuff like that, and then I find a way, and it's just like, man, that happened, and it's like, she'll say something, I'm like, oh, that's funny, and it's like, she called me that name, it's like, she's right though, like joking about that kind of stuff, or like when I see stuff, like there's sometimes that I'll see things and it'll be hilarious to me, but I don't post it because I'm like, well, that'd be kind of feel bad, because like, what if that person saw it, especially since it's so local, and
it's a little town.
Exactly,
you don't want to offend anybody.
Exactly, and there's some things I leave out, and then I don't want to be like I'm watching it. I'm not like that. What's that people at Walmart thing? I'm not like watching people like do something funny or whatever. And then some people like, and it's funny too when something happens. Like if I get mad or something happens like with the online pickup or at the cash register, I'm like, oh well, this happened, that happened, and something turns around, don't make a video about it, or are you gonna make a video about it? I'm like, no, I'm not, and then automatically to turn to that, it's like, oh, now he's going to post about it. I'm like, no, I don't do that to everything. It's just
so sometimes people are like not wanting to be themselves.
Exactly,
or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I started trying to get my steps in. So I was like, oh, it's nice to be like, I can go to Walmart and just go get a thing. I mean, because and it's sometimes it's at that boost when you see people. It's that feeling when you see people. And sometimes I complain about it, but then again, it's like if I was ever to go in there and like not know anybody, it kind of suck. I'm like, man, and one of my best friends works there, so it's kind of cool to see him too. So I'll go there and I'm like, I can go get milk. I can get some steps in. While I go get my milk. Walk and do that. And then it's like I happen to see stuff, and some people are like, you go there every day. It's like I don't go there every day, but there's times when I was like, man, I got to get this. I'll just go ahead and get it, and go there.
Well, you work right across the road.
Exactly, yeah. So. I'm just right there, so it's not too bad. And it's like it's good to walk around because I feel like if I'm
you're entertained, you're getting a little fitness.
Exactly,
you're getting a little bit of ideas flowing. Your creative juices are flowing.
See some of the stuff, and I'm just like, that's a good idea for that. Or I've seen that person, or I hear somebody say something, or do it in a way. Or sometimes it makes me think that when I see somebody do something and they say something in a weird way, I'm like, did I think of it that way, or if
I'm the same way, and I've always masked like pain and sadness with comedy. Everybody that knows me knows that. Like, if I don't want to show my true feeling, I'll just make a joke about it. I'm one of the most sarcastic people ever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I get people tell me like, when you're in your dark place, you're the funniest. And then sometimes when I'm too deep in my dark place, I feel like my writing's a lot different. Because here lately, I've been doing a lot of like trying to meditate and do different things because like I got really bad seasonal depression. So during that time frame, and you can tell too, but like if you don't see me posting and doing stuff like that, I don't want to be like so bummed and everything, because I feel like I want to be the guy to lift people up. I don't want to post sad stuff all the time, and I don't post anything personal because I feel like I'm gonna have a life outside of it, and then I have that life that's like the entertaining side, and it's like the worst thing because like sometimes if I'm not feeling it, and if people walk up to me like, oh, you're that, I'm like, out of respect, I'm like, oh yeah, you
got to put on that fake smile because that's what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they expect.
But the worst part is when they're like, say something funny, do something funny, you gotta be funny, tell us a joke, and I'm just like. And that's when I lock up. I'm just like, or
that's
when people
not the way this works.
Exactly. Or people are like, "Hey, sweet action, bro." I'm like, "Well, hi," and I'm like, "Oh, that was awkward. Why did I say it like that?" And I'm like, "Should I go back and like redo it? Should I, Or people are like, "Hey, hey," like the other day, the lady was like, "Hey, superstar, what are you up to?" And I'm like, she's talking to me. Oh, sorry. Like that, in that awkward moment, because I know she was talking to me, because like in my mind, I accept it. And people's like, you're famous, you accept it, there's nobody else. And people are like, why are you doing this stuff here and not taking it there? Because, and kind of like what you said with skateboarding, it's the same thing with, like, you're, one of the most amazing skateboarders I've seen, like in person.
Around here.
Yeah, around here, And not, even then, I still think you can kill it out there. But, like, with me, it's like, if I take those things and went to, like, Hollywood, like everybody else said, how many other people are doing the same thing? Just because I'm one of the only ones doing what I'm doing here, in this area.
That gets to be your niche, and you get to be special.
Exactly, and people stand out and everything. But I know if I start doing that stuff, like in Hollywood, people are like, you're just another one of them group, and I'm over there with my camera like, oh, sorry.
And then
like
if you're in Hollywood talking about Oklahoma, then is that even relevant?
Yeah, people are like, what are you talking about? And it's like, with that accent. And that's what I think like with some of these apps people don't get, because I'll do like some of the like the Oklahoma thing. It's like, he don't get it. Look at him. He's got gauges. He's not one of those guys and everything. I was like, yeah, I'm from Oklahoma. Like I'm around this stuff all the time. I see these things. This stuff happens. Like at my workplace, out and about, everywhere I go, you see stuff. And if you're observant, you can see these things. And sometimes I'll like see a group of family, and I don't sit there staring at them watching them, but I'll notice a couple of things, and I'll see their surroundings, because one, I'm just making sure nothing sketchy happens, and two, I'm just kind of like, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, the car might blow up and catch on fire beside you.
Yeah. And I'm just like nervous and everything. It's like it keeps you fully aware, because with my anxiety, I'm like, what's gonna happen? What's up with that guy? He's got a long coat on. And I don't want to like profile or sound like I'm assuming that they're gonna do something, but I'm just kind of like keeping an eye out. And then I notice some big burly, some guy named Gus. He's over there. He's like, achoo, and I'm like, that dude just sneezed like a
little kid sneeze.
Yeah, exactly.
Big guy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm like, and I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, I gotta post this. I'm like,
do I though?
And that's part of it too. Is like, so it's okay to keep some things out there, and there's some things that it's like, I know that like it's like everybody has a friend who does this, or everybody who has a friend that, especially in a small town like that, people know. And like 9 times out of 10, whenever I say something like that, everybody has a friend who does this or does that, even like when I post it, not make a video about it, but make a post about that, people are like, are you talking about me?
Yeah, exactly. It resonates with them.
Yeah, like I had one where I did it, and I got some chicken nuggets at McDonald's, and I got like 2
The new McDonald's or the old?
The new one.
The new McDonald's.
Yeah, the new McDonald's. And I went there, and I got a 10-piece, and I had 12 in there. I'm like, hell yeah, I got 12 nuggets. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, that's a lucky day. And I'm sitting there, it's like, man, I know some people who would get so psyched out, about this. I was like, everybody knows a guy who gets excited about having a free hash brown or extra nuggets.
Definitely.
And then sometimes I'm like, did they recognize me from my videos? Like, did they recognize me?
Or did they just mess up the order?
Exactly, yeah. So sometimes I have to get that out of my head. It's like, they knew who I was, And sometimes people are like, oh, or like I get a meal that's like, $10, and it's only like, $5, and I get like a discount. I'm like, they recognize me.
Yeah.
And
Sweet
I'm like,
action,
yeah.
bro.
And sometimes I'll have enough, goal to be like, so did you recognize me or anything? And they're like, oh yeah, definitely. I'm like, I feel pretty good.
Because that would have been awkward if you said no.
Yeah. But then they're like, yeah, you were, you used to do my pictures at Walgreens. I'm like, oh, like that's how you recognize me. Or people like, and I had to stop doing that too, because people will be like, I know you from something, and I never want to go to, oh, I'm the guy from Facebook. Like I never say that, and then people, people do that kind of stuff, and they'll be like, you used to work at the drive-thru at Taco Mayo. I'm like, when I was like 17,
you remember me from
that? Yeah, and they're like, they're saying that kind of stuff, and then. Real quick, I got pulled over in a different town, and this guy, when I was pulled over, he was like they were doing their thing in a small town, and they're really cool though about it. And he was sitting there, and he was like talking to me, and he was like, he's like, have I arrested you before? And I was like, no, I've never been here before. He's like, I've arrested you before, haven't I? I was like, no. He goes, I know you from something. I was like, I've never been here in my life. And he kept on doing that. And he's like, come sit in my car with me. So he's like running my stuff. And I'm like scared because, I'm, Parks and Rec, that Ben guy on there, Adam Scott's character, that's me. And I'm just like,
I'm in the cop car.
Yeah, I'm in the cop car. I was like, I'm going to jail. I was like, I was panicked. I was freaking out. He goes, are you positive you've never been here? He's like, I feel like I've arrested you. I was like, sir, I've never been here before. I've never, he's like, why are you so scared? I was like, you're a cop. I'm sorry,
you
it's like,
make me nervous.
And he said that, and he was like, did you make a video about cowboys? He's like, you made one about Baker Mayfield? And I was like, oh yeah, it's me. He goes, why didn't you lead with that? Why didn't you tell me that? He's like, you didn't tell me that. He's like, you should have just told me.
I didn't realize it was that big.
That's what I was saying. I was like, oh.
We're in another town.
Yeah,
why would I assume that you knew that?
And also, it's like, lead with that. Like, how do I lead with it? And he was like, you should have just told me that was you. He's like, we wouldn't have been going through all this stuff. He's like, now I got backups, checking, because I guess that's, whatever they do.
Mandatory.
Yeah, exactly. They had a state trooper walk in and he didn't know who I was, And I was
but what if you would have led with that and you'd been like, oh, I'm that Facebook guy.
Yeah.
Like,
have you seen my video?
No, that's not it.
yeah, exactly. And that's like, and I feel like, and so it's like that torn apart where then I think that's what makes it awkward, because I know I'm not, I'm not like a big name. I know I'm not like that, but I also don't want to be that, because in my mind I've done that kind of stuff where I've been like, they know me from Facebook, but I'm just going to keep it quiet, and they're like, oh yeah, you did pictures for my mom and you were really nice. I was like, oh yeah, that was me. That's what it was.
Thank goodness I didn't open my mouth.
Yeah. Or opposite happens where they say something like that, and I like give them my card for work, or I do something like that. They look me up or whatever. I'm like, how come you didn't tell us you were famous, or how come you didn't tell us? I was like, because I don't go around being like, I don't want to be that guy. I'm saying, granted, I want people to see my stuff and I want to spread the word and do things like that. But I just feel like it's, and that's one of the reasons why I hate saying, oh, celebrity or oh, famous, because I'm nowhere near that in my mind. And I know people like, oh yeah, you're up there with Brad Pitt or whoever, but what? I just and I just don't, but I just the way people act are like, I've even had a girl like, oh my God, it's you, and I'm like,
well, I guess around here there's nobody else even on that level.
See, I wondered about that,
You're the only one, so I guess they got to get excited about it.
Because that's what a lot of people say. Because I'm like, dude, and someone walk up and one of the best ones that put it and kind of got me kind of happy is he's like, I've never met anybody go viral before. They're like, I've never seen anybody do what you do. I've never seen anybody get as many views and seen how, and I'm like, that makes me feel kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a good way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've always done it just for the laughs. The whole time, because we didn't even have cameras in the back of the day. And you did stupid stuff my whole life.
Yeah, I was always, and that's always just been me. It's just a people pleaser and entertainer. And that's one of my things. It's like at the end of the day, I want to do bigger things. I want to do goals. And I have these goals that I'm actually currently working on and doing. But also, like, at the end of the day, I want people to, like, recognize and know, like whenever I'm long gone, I want people to be like, man, that Matt guy, he did this, and I want to be known as the guy who did what he loved to do, his passion, and do this stuff. And there are people out there, because there's so many people who have the abilities. Around here, you walk around and see guys doing amazing things. They have their talents, but they're not doing anything with it.
Right,
and I don't want to be another guy.
I've got a lot of friends with great talents, but they're just wasting them.
Yeah. I want to live. I don't want to exist. I want to use my capabilities, for good. So that's a good thing about it.
Well, we're rounding an hour and a half.
Wow.
So let's.
I talk a lot. Huh?
You're fine. Let's finish it out by talking about what you've had the most success with in your videos. Has it linked you into like any really cool people or any famous people or any bigger projects that like you're like, oh my gosh, you're thinking about me because of this? That's awesome. You know what I mean? And what are your aspirations?
Yeah, I've had there's been a couple of times that I've had people like, what takes me back about being a one-man show is like I had a few producers and a couple of filmmakers, some of them in the horror scene, but mainly comedy. And I actually had a friend that linked me up with a guy, and I auditioned for a mini series that this guy had, and killed it and did really good on it. And he said he'll call me back, but then he was kind of like, I guess he heard that I was more of the creator side, so I guess I don't want to say that intimidating thing. But then there was one that was more of a serious role, and they had me booked, saying that they were going to have me as this supporting actor, like the main guy. But then they were like, he killed that, the main guy, because that's what I went in for. And so when I was waiting for him to call me back, and I was just like, go and see what happens. The audition went like really well, and he's just like, you killed it, but we can't help but seeing you as that joke. You don't take anything serious. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, dude, there's videos of you all over the place with wigs on. I'm like,
so you kind of had to take the constructive criticism, and it's like, man.
So I was just like, if I'm going to do something, I'm just going to make it my own.
But that's not exactly true, because look at Jim Carrey.
True.
He was hilarious forever, and then he made 23.
Yeah, the number 23. He did the what do you call it? And Robin Williams with a 1 hour photo, Insomnia, different things like that.
And there's been a lot of people like that. Yeah. And if you're a good actor, then you can act. You can act funny. You can act scared. You can act dramatic. Yeah. You can act any of these ways.
And see, that's what kind of bugs me about it, because it's kind of like,
but don't let it kill your drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking is like, if somebody, because I get friends all the time. I've done like a lot of different things with some different friends who like call me and say, hey, can you be in this? And I got a role for you, And then sometimes like, hey, I got a gay guy role, and you do a really good gay guy. And I'm like, I take that as a compliment. I'm not going to be like, oh no, I don't want to be that guy. But it's like, I'm helping them out. I'm doing their stuff.
But you don't have, or at least it seems that way, that you don't have that shame. Like, you're okay with wearing a gown or a wig if it's going to get a good laugh. You're like, you know what? I'm comfortable with my sexuality. care what you guys think. This is funny.
Hey, it's one of the, I've been like that since before the camera was rolling. Before whenever I did that, I would just do some dumb things, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, that's Matt," and like known for that and everything. I was like, might as well just like put it out there, because with the gown, I made that video because I was like, that'd be funny because it was for a female character. I had it. It's actually one of my horror films that I'm working on, and I bought the gown for it, and then I wore it to shoot a few things, and then I went straight to editing. I was like, this thing feels good,
This is comfortable.
Yeah, I didn't take it off. I was like, I like this thing, and then I went back to wearing it.
Spawned a video out of it.
Yeah, I made that video. I wrote that song, and it's so funny because people was like, I'm in my gown, y'all, and there's like singing, and someone's like, hey, how do I make this my ringtone? I'm like, what? I was like, that's cool, and then the what's it called? The other rap song, and that's really fast that led to with what's that? The Tax Time Ballin'.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There's some rapper friends of mine who actually have been mad at me and who have deleted me and blocked me because I'm making a mockery of the rap game. And they said that I don't take it serious.
It's also probably a little bit of jealousy because you're getting a lot of views where they're like taking all this time to make a song and they don't get the same reaction.
Yeah, and they were like, it was disrespectful that you said you wrote that in less than 2 minutes. I was like, but I did though. Like I was just thinking.
And that kind of goes back to, God, what's the guy's name that signed with Snoop Dogg? Save That Money.
Oh, Lil Dicky.
Lil Dicky. Yeah. Like, I mean, he did
amazing,
great.
Though. He's so good. If you hear stuff that's not like the comedy stuff, even the comedy stuff, but like if he did just like his serious stuff that he does, he's actually really good.
Yeah, he is. But he makes a mockery of rap, and it works for him.
And
he
Lonely
made money
Island,
off
they
of
do
it.
comedy stuff. I mean, Childish Gambino is serious and comedy stuff back and forth, and and I was like, granted, I mean, I know I'm not the best rapper. I've had some stuff, and I've done a little bit here and there, but they're like, oh, you're making a joke of it, and there's some of us grind so hard and we do these things, and you're just making a joke of it, and doing it for laughs.
How did you act territorial of that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sounds weird to me.
I just think it's funny how people around here are talking about like the rap game. I was like, do you even really know about the rap game?
Yeah,
like you're calling it a rap game. Like I'm not. To me, I'm just like, I mean, I respect it. I got all kinds of rap that I listen to and I respect. But it's like, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, man, that rap game, or like in the videos, you made a serious video. You don't
be like Krispy Kreme or Froggy Fresh.
Froggy Fresh.
I'm gonna make it in the rap game.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, you're not taking the video game serious, or like like making videos. You made a serious, romantic comedy or a romantic video or something. Anyway, it's just stupid. Like, and it cracks me up. But I just roll with it. It's all. People always say haters gonna hate, and whenever I say those things on Facebook or make jokes about it, it's getting comedy and getting a laugh at it because it doesn't affect. I mean, it does, but it doesn't affect me. And I say something, people's like, oh, haters gonna hate. They're jealous. It's like I get that and I understand that, but like I want people to see, like, even though like people think that I'm constantly getting good stuff because they see it, they're not seeing like the real side of it. It's like people are saying crap and talking crap.
People are mean
and being mean about it, and it's like I get that thick skin. That's where I'm bringing back my getting back into stand up, and I'm terrified because it's like I got a few opportunities to do some things, and I'm actually thinking about doing an open mic, to get some practice in and get some stuff before I start really trying to kick off with it. And I'm like scared because I'm like,
see, that's me too. I've always been interested in comedy, but I've always not wanted to be booed off the stage.
That's what I'm saying. And I can edit the awkwardness out on my videos, and I can, whenever I do stuff, and everybody's like, why don't you never go live, or why don't you? And it's like, because like I ramble on, I talk a lot, I'm like, we've been an hour and 30 minutes, it's like me rambling on, but I mean, I just know that about me. But in my videos, I can cut it out, and people are always like, you're completely different in your videos than you are in real life. It's like, well, I mean, there's two sides of this stuff, do you think that Jim Carrey he's always who he is? He's I've seen interviews and seen him out and about. He seems like a chill guy. He's not always
serious,
doing stuff like that, and it's like I have to, and there's some people it's like, dude, it's so weird seeing you serious, or like whenever they come into work.
I'm a human, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I have my days I can be chill, and I don't have to always be like, joke. And there's days when I feel pretty good, and I'll try out some of my material with customers, or I try out some of my material with people. Like when I go somewhere, I'll make jokes, and people are like, oh, you're so hilarious, and I love it. And I'm like, there's that boost, that
gives you a little bit of motivation to maybe try that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I'll like jot it down or type it up in my phone and come up with it. And then other times I'm just kind of like, yeah, that one bombed. I'll leave that out.
Well, let's wrap it up with your aspirations. What do you want to do next, and what should we be looking for out of you?
Well, I have two full-length films. One of them
full-length film.
Yeah. I have because I'm getting back into that. I got a couple of them, and then I have another YouTube channel. I was going to keep on the DL, but I'm working on it, trying to figure out once I get some other stuff settled with it. I'm going to do it's going to be a bunch of horror shorts and like little short, scary ones. That way I can get to two sides, because there's some people that I have that love, horror, and there's some of them that love comedy. Kind of get the best of both worlds.
I would love to see some of your work on the other side, because I imagine that you could do some really good dramatic and horror stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like, because that's what I started on, and some of the stuff that like I have like so much of it that I wrote for that. Two, I have more. I don't know if you've seen that Recipe for Disaster. That's going to be on my YouTube channel where we find weird, nasty stuff on the internet and eat it, or like we make it.
Oh,
I've
seen you do that. That looks kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of guests for that.
Maybe I could be a guest.
Yeah,
on that.
That's actually one of the things I was going to bring up and say if you want to, you're ready to eat some nasty stuff and
I'm down. Not exactly, but I want to be. I want to be a part of everything.
Yeah, I have that. I have a webisode series that I'm thinking about doing with the web. But I talked to a guy who might know somebody who might be able to pitch it to a couple of like different like TV stuff.
Like a network?
Like a network. That's what I was looking for. But I don't know 100% for that, but it's something that I wrote that I had, and there's a bunch of different stuff.
You've got opportunities coming your
way. A lot of stuff that I'm in the process, and that's one of the reasons why if I don't post that much, it's because I'm working on all the other stuff, and then sometimes it's like trying to work full time, be family guy, doing all this stuff and doing all these things. Sometimes it gets overwhelming to where I'm like, I'm having to take a day off, take some time off. And then I'm terrified if I take too long, people are going to forget about me,
Exactly.
And some people, it's like, all you can do is just type up Oklahoma and people will love the crap out of it, And I'm like,
definitely. And with the internet the way it is, people's attention span is short.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You got to stay relevant. That's the thing about it. And that's what I feel like with some of the things. It's like, you got to keep posting. Because, you're going to be irrelevant. People are going to forget about you. And that's one of my biggest fears, because it's like, I don't want to, like, after I got hacked, I'm like getting back into it. I'm scared, with that stuff. But I think if I can keep it going and people can see, some of the stuff, I got some different people I'm working on about doing like a kind of like a Tahlequah Film Festival type thing for local film, because Chota Kills Night's one of them. And
Chota is amazing.
There's so many of them that people like that, that I know people have seen it, but like they need to see more of what he's doing, and like get some of his stuff.
Chota's filmed some skateboarding for me in the past, and he is so talented.
Yeah, he's so good with his stuff. Riker, Salazar, Whitebird, different people like that.
Oh yeah, you guys had like a little group for a little while there, didn't you?
Heath Ferguson, a bunch of there's a bunch of local guys who are doing this stuff, but I'm not saying they're not doing it like me, but like I'm constantly posting on Facebook and doing stuff like that, and they had their stuff out. But I'm trying to get something set up here in town where we can get
bring them together.
Yeah, I got a bunch of people to do so we can see different segments and have different themes at night. And then I thought about doing like a where it can have like a scavenger hunt and have different things on a list, and you film this video with this topic with these things seen in the scene, and that way people can try to make it and then have like other
that'd
people.
Be fun.
Yeah, and then
so they've got like a time limit and a specific set, and they've got to do that.
Yeah, and get people to where they can actually try it out. The battery's dying.
It's getting a little low there.
Yeah, and that way it can teach people, because there's always people like, can you teach me this? Can you show me this? And can you do this? And basically just throw it their way, And that's one of the websites kind of actually, it's like YouTube with Splice put together in a way, but like on the web, where people can like learn how to do stuff. You can teach them and give them the software, and then kind of see what they can do, and then showcase the best one and have contests and stuff like that. But it's like a bunch of like different stuff. It's
definitely
all in here and out there, and I'm working on stuff. So hopefully you can see some different stuff. But I'm going to continue to post my videos on Facebook. You can go on TikTok, Sweet Action Bro.
Sweet Action Bro on TikTok.
But the main thing is YouTube. I'm going to keep focusing back on that.
Sweet Action Bro at YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. And I'm going to get back into my vlogs. I'm going to do Recipe for Disaster. I'm trying to bring back Tool Talk and get some stuff going. But with buying a house, I'm kind of setting it up where I can have sets, different areas where they're set up on there, get my little web series and stuff like that going. And it's just time. It takes time.
Well, is there anything else you want to share with us before we wrap it all up? Anything that just pops into your head?
Man, there's hundreds of things, but I think the battery's almost dead for me.
It's about out.
Yeah, it's been enough, like a lot of time talking about stuff. So, people got my story.
Well, and then we still have Chris Ray, his podcast. You're going to be a guest on his podcast.
Yeah, he's one of them. I got his. Javen Longs, that... what's that? Get some perspective, or
I don't know.
He's got one. We've been talking about. He's got a really good podcast, and then I have a couple other buddies who's doing some stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get to be a guest on Chris Ray's.
Yeah,
that'll be cool. Interesting, because we both do a podcast. Yeah, so it'd be cool to just go back and forth.
And you can talk about your business with that, and then talk about your podcast. Kind of plug everything. Plug all
Show everybody one last time, guys. Plug skateboards, $35, even if it's for hanging on the wall. Yeah. It's a great deal.
My bones don't let me skate like I used to, but. And I got new shirts going to be coming out too.
New shirts? How can we get your shirts?
You can message me on Facebook, or there's different things. I'm actually working on some stuff. Another thing I'm working on is like I got a few commercials I'm working on for local businesses and some of the stuff, and I'm gonna get cards made. So I have all kinds of
commercials for like just making them a commercial.
Yeah. There's some of them who. there's one of them who's wanting to put it on Green Country Cinema, and when they do those advertisements, they got with Facebook, YouTube pages.
See,
and stuff.
I'm interested in the same thing as doing commercials for people.
Yeah,
so we need to chat about that
seriously,
another time. We might
that,
just have to have you come back on the show.
Yeah, have like another one, like, oh, this is all this other stuff. Because I'm one of those people, and I just keep talking, and I'm always throwing ideas around.
I've got a laundry list of guests that are going to be on here.
That's
so
sick.
It's going to be so cool.
Yeah, I'm pumped about being like one of the first ones too. So it's like
you're number 2.
Yeah, number 2. Well, one of the first. Yeah, number 2. I was just like, I didn't want to say. Yeah, no, I'm one of the first, but yeah, number 2, man. I'm the.
Who does number 2 work for?
yeah, that's what people say. I'm like, I'm number 2, but I'm trying not to have.
I appreciate you coming out, and I appreciate you taking your time and bringing the water that I took one sip of. I forget about the water every time.
Yeah, that's what I do too. So it's like, and they sit there and dry. It's like, I should have had the water,
But it looks pretty.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've heard that this is the same. I read about it on the back. If you see it says the same one that took down the Titanic.
That bottle of water took down the Titanic.
The iceberg that was melted.
I never understood why she didn't scoot over and let Jack on the
You would
board.
think, you would think.
That's another whole other topic.
We'll have another one about that one, talking about.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Tune in next week. We'll have a new guest. You can look up Sweet Action Bro YouTube, Sweet Action Bro TikTok, and
Snapchat, and everything, Instagram.
Matt Scraper, as far as the Facebook, just find you under Matt Scraper, or is there a Sweet Action Bro page on Facebook?
There is, but I don't do anything with that. Switch over there. And then Matt Scraper, it's MattScrapper in Scraper. So it looks like Matt Scrapper, but yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll find you there. Thanks, everyone.